Chapter 417. The scenery on both sides receded as the car sped along. Lu Qing was a little scared and couldn't help but advise her, "Ku, you don't have to drive so fast." Yanjika glanced at him out of the corner of her eyes. She let go of the accelerator and slowed down. Blushing, she said with an embarrassed smile, "I saw others overtaking me and driving so fast, so I thought that it's okay to drive faster. Aren't they all the same?" Lu Qing was dumbfounded as he listened. He carefully observed his surroundings, using his eyes to measure the details of his surroundings. "What are you thinking about?" Yanjika's right foot in white casual shoes unconsciously stepped on the accelerator again. Lu Qing answered with a complicated expression, "I'm thinking about how to accelerate if something goes wrong, how to step on the brake, and how to resist the collision from the opposite side." Yanjika slowed down the accelerator again and didn't know what to say for a while. When they stopped at the traffic light, she asked with both annoyance and amusement, "Am I really that bad? I think everything went well except for the ignition at the beginning." "It's not about bad. Ku, you're not in the right state of mind. You can't always think about overtaking others and driving so fast. You have to control yourself. How can you not wet your shoes if you always walk on the roadside?" Lu Qing was afraid that Ku would have an accident when he was not with her, so he reminded her seriously, which was rare. Yanjika pouted, "Okay, I'll try my best." The green light flashed and the car started again. This time she listened to Lu Qing's advice and drove very steadily. Sometimes she wanted to overtake or speed up, but she realized it in time and controlled herself. "Where are we going for a drive?" Lu Qing was in the mood to look at the scenery outside the car. He saw tall buildings and a river of lights. Yanjika smiled and said in a light tone, "I'll take you to see the night market in Linning first, and then we'll go to the river to get some fresh air." The capital of Jiangnan province was called Linning. Night market? What's it like? Lu Qing thought of the flea market in Xiushan. You'll know when we get there." Yanjika kept him guessing with a smile on her face. The car turned left and right and arrived at a busy street half an hour later. At first glance, the street was as bright as day. Simple shops were lined up in 3 rows and meandered into the distance. Crowds of people and voices filled the air. With the help of the reversing radar and video, Yanjika parked the car with a sense of accomplishment. She held Lu Qing's hand and walked into the night market. There were all kinds of cheap items for sale here, such as clothes and cell phone cases, as well as fragrant delicacies. Lu Qing stretched out his left hand and put it on the girl's other shoulder. He pulled her to his side, separating her from the pedestrians who were rubbing shoulders. As they walked and stopped, Yanjika fully enjoyed the pleasure of bargaining. Although she was not interested in those things, she just wanted to experience life. She criticized Lu Qing seriously, saying that he had never learned how to bargain. Every time he talked, it would be, "How much is it? 150? Can you make it cheaper? No, okay, give it to me," and so on. He never deviated from the basic principle. They started their business here. Now it's a national chain. But other than this place, they don't taste good. Their family started their business here, and now it's a national chain restaurant. But other than here, the other restaurants don't taste good. "I think their other stores are good." Lu Qing asked with interest. "I think their other stores are okay." Lu Qing asked with interest. "That's because you haven't eaten anything good." While they were talking, the chicken was ready and put into a bag. They held hands and ate as they walked. They both thought it was like a student couple on a date. While they were talking, the chicken chops were ready and put into a bag. The two of them each took a piece, held hands and ate as they walked. Both of them felt that this was like a student couple dating. It's true. It's much better than the ones in Songqing. Lu Qing chewed on the tender chicken chop and expressed his admiration in surprise. He swallowed half of it in 2 or 3 bites. Yanjika lifted her chin slightly and smiled smugly. "I told you, but you didn't believe me." She took out her phone and let Lu Qing lean his head and body to her. They held the chicken and took a selfie. She took out her phone and asked Lu Qing to take a selfie with the chicken. She didn't like to take pictures. She didn't know when it started, but she, who didn't like taking pictures, started to like using this method to record the interesting things they experienced together. Snap. Yanjika pursed her lips and tilted her head, trying to portray a beautiful image. Lu Qing, on the other hand, didn't care. He laughed and said, "Ku, you haven't eaten much at roadside stalls before, right? Where did you get this place?" "My cousin, Sister Lingxi brought me here once." Yanjika answered with a sweet smile. Sister Lingxi is indeed an experienced player. Lu Qing nodded in understanding. Ji Lingxi was the eldest daughter of the Ji family. She was 4 years older than Ku. She was born with great strength but didn't like martial arts. She wanted to study and be a manager. She was a professional ninth pin fighter in her first year and was still a professional ninth pin fighter in her fourth year. 2 years after graduation she reached the threshold of the dance stage. She was a very playful person. She skateboarded, surfed, rappelling, sang, danced, traveled, took a cruise to the sea, collected bags and so on. In addition, she was also interested in experiencing the different specialties of different places, exploring roadside delicacies and interesting shops. She was the kind of person who could go to banquets and food stalls. They talked and laughed. They ate from the chicken chop shop to the end of the night market. They ate from one stall after another, all of which were certified by the gourmet Lingxi. After a round, they returned to the car from the outside of the night market. Yanjika led Lu Cheng to the riverside to take a walk in the cool night wind. The Ning River was wide and refreshing. The water blew on their faces, moistening their skin and soul. The girl held Lu Cheng's hand and walked beside the guardrail. She giggled and swayed as if she was still a little girl. "It's late. We have to go back." She looked at her watch. "We can stay out all night." Lu Cheng instigated with a half-truth and half-lie. Yanjika rolled her eyes at him and mimicked his tone. "Then you will be hunted down by my grandpa and grandma for 8 streets. Shivering? Lu Cheng joked. It was his first day here and he had already abducted someone's granddaughter and stayed out all night. Was he asking for a beating or a beating? They opened the door and got into the car. Yanjika had just sat down. Before she could fasten the seat belt or start the car, she felt her body tilted and fell into Cheng's arms. "You." Just as she raised her head, she saw Lu Cheng's scorching black eyes. Having shared a bed and pillow intimately during the national competition, Lu Cheng had long been itching to make a move. Due to Yen Kai and Ji Mingyu's interference and other reasons, they hadn't been intimate for the past week. It was easy to go from frugality to extravagance, but difficult to go from extravagance to frugality. Yanjika closed her eyes, straightened her fair and slender neck like that of a swan and gave in. Her legs were curled up on her side, and she was in the same position as her boyfriend. They were squeezed very closely together. Lu Cheng had observed the surroundings and knew that there was no one here. He kissed her passionately and let his hands move. He started from her shoulders, back and legs and gradually went deeper. "Could this seat, can it be reclined?" Lu Cheng asked anxiously as he kissed the girl's ear. "I can't do it like this. I don't know. You can search." Yanjika answered in a soft and confused voice. She didn't even know what she was talking about. Search at this time? Lu Cheng didn't want to be distracted. He wanted to use force concentration to lean against her and knock down the seat. At this moment, a sharp ringing sound rang out, echoing continuously. Yanjika pushed Lu Cheng away and glared at him with embarrassment and anger in her eyes. She pursed her moist lips, picked up her phone and answered the call. "Hello, Sister Lingxi? You're back." "Yes, we're outside. I brought Cheng to the night market." "Okay, we're going back." Lu Cheng laughed helplessly at the side. He reached out and helped tidy up her clothes. "Humph, it's dangerous to be with you." Yanjika sat back in the driver's seat and calmed herself down. She started the ignition with a blushing face. "I haven't been intimate with you for a long time." Lu Cheng adjusted his pants. Yanjika glared at him and bit her lip. "It'll be fine after a few days. Anyway, I'm on my period tomorrow." As she spoke, she burst into laughter. "I know. Oh, where's your aunt?" Lu Cheng changed the topic and asked about his aunt. "She went to Shushan study to take care of my brother." Yanjika calmed herself down and started the car. The journey was smooth without any accidents. They arrived at the old house of the Ji family in 40 minutes. After parking the car, Lu Cheng and Yanjika walked towards the main entrance. Before they could get close, they heard someone talking loudly inside. "My 300,000 for a gram. It has a medicinal fragrance. It can cure many diseases. It's not as good as your Buddhist beads, Brother Li. This string of prayer beads is made of ordinary materials. It was blessed by a senior monk from the Daxing temple and nourished by chanting scriptures every day for half a year. I was unlucky last year, so my dad begged for this string of prayer beads. It's hard to say how much it's worth." All right. Don't brag about it every time. Get one for each of us if you can." "What the hell?" Lu Cheng was confused. This was a field he didn't understand at all. Yanjika glanced at him and said in a low voice, "Don't mind them. They like to play these games." "It's boring." She turned the handle and pushed the door open. 2 men and 2 women were chatting in the main hall. Lu Cheng recognized Ji Lingxi at a glance. She looked more like the Empress Dowager than his classmate Ko. She was tall and graceful, but her eyebrows were not sharp enough. "You're back?" Ji Lingxi's white t-shirt, denim shorts and high-heeled sandals showcased her figure to the fullest. She stood up with a smile and said, "Come, let me introduce you. This is Zhang Li, the young master of the Jindi group. His father has a good relationship with several eminent monks of Daxing Temple." Zhang Li's skin was dark and his eyes were ordinary. He wore a dark brown prayer beads on his wrist. "This is Han Jingqiao. His mother is the chairman of the Provincial Martial Artist Association." Ji Lingxi pointed to the other man with a smile. Han Jingqiao was more handsome than Zhang Li, but his eyes were heavy and his qi and blood were not strong enough. He was holding a green pendant in his hand. "This is Guogua. You know her. We've had dinner together a few times. Her father is now independent." Ji Lingxi looked at the girl with long wavy hair beside her. Then she pointed to Yan Zhika and said, "I don't think I need to tell you. My cousin Yan Zhika." A few guys wanted to pursue her but they were beaten to the punch. "Hey Ku, introduce him yourself." Yan Zhika looked at Lu Cheng and thought for a moment. The corners of her mouth curled up, and she said simply without adding anything, "He's Lu Cheng." Chapter 418. He's Lu Cheng. The four simple words made the atmosphere suddenly solemn. Zhang Li, Guogua, and the others were silent for more than 10 seconds. "See, this is the heavenly son of the age." Ji Lingxi was the first to come back to herself. She smiled and looked at her companions. Then she turned to Yan Zhika and complained, when they heard that Lu Cheng was coming, they were so excited and curious. They shamelessly followed me home. They wanted to see what the heavenly son of the age looked like and whether he had 3 heads and 6 arms. "So I'm a monster?" Lu Cheng replied humorously. No, you're not a monster. After practicing martial arts for a year and a half, you've already reached the top of 6th pin. You're not a monster. You're a Superman." Zhang Li smiled. He was relatively calm. His left hand began to twirl the dark brown prayer beads. "Yes, Superman." Han Jingqiao echoed with an exaggerated smile. Then he asked in confusion, "Lu Cheng, why do I feel that you look a little different from on TV?" "How so?" Lu Cheng looked at Yan Zhika with a smile and found that she was just as confused as he was. It had only been 5 or 6 days since he last appeared on TV. Guogua was a short and delicate girl with a rather imposing face. She said in a low voice, "You're a little different. On TV you're more, how do I put it? More flamboyant. You have a temperament that people don't dare to look at directly." "Ah, I understand now. During an intense battle, I will definitely release my aura to oppress and affect the opponent's mind." When the match was over and I was interviewed, I hadn't completely calmed down. Lu Cheng suddenly understood. The me on TV was a battle form. "So that's how it is. When you're free you're like a forest, when you're in a battle you're like a fire." Zhang Li nodded thoughtfully. They were the kind of people who didn't like martial arts. They would only watch highly watched matches that attracted a lot of attention. Therefore, even though there were many seniors and experts around them, they didn't notice some details. After the small talk, the atmosphere became relatively livelier. Ji Lingxi, Han Jingqiao, and the others sat down and began to chat about various things. It was obvious that they wanted Lu Cheng to be the center of the conversation. Seeing that he wasn't interested, they didn't mention the prayer beads and ambergris. Instead, they talked about the gossip in the martial arts circle. Lu Cheng didn't care about what they were talking about. He didn't feel the slightest inferiority even if their collection was worth all his savings. Instead, he took it as an opportunity to broaden his horizons and listened quietly. He didn't mind. Time ticked by. Lu Cheng pressed on his phone, looked at the screen and stood up with a smile. As time ticked, Lu Lingxi. Ji stood. He was surprised. His tone was normal but there was an indisputable tone to it. Ji Lingxi stood up and asked in surprise, "So early?" Ever since he started practicing martial arts, he's been living like an old man. "Yeah, so am I." Yan Zhika explained for her boyfriend with a smile and thought of an excuse to get herself out of this situation. "Zhang. We Sming," Cheng said, Yan Li Yan Cheng, let's go fishing and enjoy the breeze. Oh, there are a few underground fights in the international waters." With the existence of referees, the arena matches were more than exciting but not exciting enough. In order to satisfy their own desires and needs to vent, some tycoons would privately organize underground arena matches in war-torn zones and on the high seas. Arena matches without referees. If they really fought like this, even if no one died, there would definitely be a scene of blood splattering everywhere and bones breaking. It would excite the bestial side of humans. Of course, the fighters who were willing to fight in challenge tournaments to make quick money were not very strong. If there was a dance stage 7th or 6th pin fighter, they would have a guarantor and a chance to repay the debt. No need. Lu Qing looked at Yanjika and turned her down with a smile. Tomorrow he would stay at home with Ku and rub her tummy. Today was one of the days left out in the travel plan. Fine. I'll look for you next time. With your listening skill, I'm sure you can catch a lot of fish. Zhang Li didn't insist. He left the Ji family's old house with Han Jingqiao and Guogua and got into his SUV. He took off the dark brown prayer beads and put them on the gear shift. After a few seconds of silence, he asked, "What do you think? What do you think of Lu Qing?" "He's a gentle, friendly, and introverted person." Han Jingqiao rubbed his eye bags and answered seriously. "But don't you think he has a strong aura? It's like he's telling us what to do and we can only listen obediently." Guogua frowned and whispered, "Ah, that's normal. It's the confidence of a mighty one accumulated from victory after victory. My mom is the same. She doesn't have to get angry or speak loudly. As long as she makes a decision, I don't even dare to fart." Han Jingqiao laughed at himself. Not to mention a heavenly son of the age. Yeah. Zhang Li started the engine and started the car. Anyway, whether Lu Qing can reach physical invulnerability or not, I think he'll definitely become an inhuman. Han Jingqiao added, "We're not strong and have no interest in martial arts. It's good to make more friends like him." "Yo, I didn't expect young Master Han, who loves wine, cars and women, to say something like that," Guogua mocked. Han Jingqiao usually behaved like a typical rich playboy. "This is called being vigilant in times of peace," he replied, clicking his tongue. Zhang Li nodded in agreement and said slowly, "Since you have this understanding, it's not a waste of my advice. Why do you think Lingxi insisted on coming back today?" "Sisterly love? Isn't that so?" Guogua and Han Jingqiao asked in surprise. Zhang Li chuckled. "The Ji family is a typical martial arts family. Don't be fooled by the wealth and power of the outside world. Internally, strength is still the most important factor." Guogua interrupted him before he could finish. She played with her long wavy hair and said with a frown, "Uncle Ji's 4 siblings are very harmonious and close. That's because there are old masters and old ladies above them. Hee, where there are people, there are conflicts. Where there are money and power, there are disputes. In order to have strong children to stabilize his foundation, Uncle Ji kept many lovers outside. Unfortunately, none of them turned out to be successful. He didn't dare to bring them home." Zhang Li sighed. "Lingxi has shed countless tears because of this. Don't be fooled by her carefree attitude. In fact, she knows better than anyone else. She knows that she can't achieve anything in martial arts and doesn't want to fight for anything. She just wants to maintain her current status and lifestyle. Therefore, continuing to befriend Yanjika, who has a good relationship with her, is the most reasonable and practical choice. Especially when she has a really good boyfriend, the really good kind." Although Lu Qing had been dealing with the heavenly sons of the age recently, which made it seem like there were many young fighters at this level, in fact there might not even be one in several provinces. At least among Zhang Li and Han Jingqiao, only Lin Ke was slightly close to this level. In a situation where a high-ranked inhuman dance stage fighter could be considered as the upper class of a province, it was normal for the heavenly sons of the age who had a good chance of reaching physical invulnerability to be highly valued. "Brother Li." Han Jingqiao was dumbfounded. He couldn't help but gasp. "You've hidden your strength well." He could see things so clearly. Zhang Li sneered. "My family has a lot of people. If they were stupid, they would have been swallowed long ago. How could I be the young master?" Speaking of this, he sighed again. "I really envy Lu Qing and the others now. They are strong and not afraid of scheming against each other. Anyway, I'm waiting for a chance to help him or be helped by him. Either way, it could improve the relationship between both parties." In the guest room of the Ji family's old house, Lu Qing, who was under the nose of a physical invulnerability expert, didn't sneak into the bedroom. After washing up, he lay on the bed and received a call from his mother. After chatting for a while, Qi Fang said mysteriously, "Your brother has hit the jackpot recently." Lu Qing was dumbfounded. Lu Yanwei really succeeded in starting his business? He didn't say anything about it recently. Erzi expanded his business to Xioshan. He asked your brother to help and even gave him shares. Qi Fang gossiped excitedly. She didn't feel jealous because her son was very successful after all. Others couldn't catch up to him easily. Lu Qing was stunned and asked doubtfully, "Who's Erzi?" Qi Fang didn't know what to say. After a while she said, "He's a relative from Qingfu's hometown. He often comes to visit your grandpa and grandma." "Ah, I remember. He's quite a nice guy. Lu Qing said perfunctorily. You have no taste. How could you ask your brother for help? Didn't you see how many things he has failed? Qi Fang insisted that Lu Yanwei didn't have the ability to start a business. It doesn't matter. It's not us who will suffer losses. Lu Qing laughed. That's true. Also, your dad got promoted recently. Fatigue put him in charge of the whole factory and even gave him shares. Qing, do you think it's because of you? You just won the national championship and Fatigue brought this up. What's that idiom? What's that? Qi Fang wasn't well educated. It's the icing on the cake. Lu Qing added on behalf of his mother, Fatigue is a nice guy. Didn't he help me in my hour of need? That's true. Anyway, if he really asks you for help, don't worry about us. If you can help, just do it. If not, just forget it. Qi Fang said with concern. Yes, yes, yes. Lu Qing answered with a smile. When the phone was hung up and the surroundings were quiet, he sighed with emotion. As he made his name in the national competition and gained the reputation of the favored fighter of the age, everything around him was changing. Maybe it had changed before, but it was definitely not as obvious as it was now. Without him saying anything, the fate of his relatives and friends had changed. It was only now that Lu Qing truly understood what it meant to have a change in status. Chapter 419. The scenery on both sides receded as the car sped along. Lu Qing was a little scared and couldn't help but dissuade her. You don't have to drive so fast. Glancing at him from the corner of her eye, Yanjika released the accelerator and slowed down. She blushed and said with an embarrassed smile, when I see others overtaking me and driving so fast, I want to overtake them. I think it's okay to drive faster. Aren't they all the same? Lu Qing was dumbfounded. He carefully observed his surroundings, measuring the details with his eyes. What are you thinking about? Yanjika unconsciously pressed the accelerator with her right foot in white casual shoes. Lu Qing answered with a complicated expression. I'm thinking about how to exert force, how to brake, and how to resist the collision of the opposite side if there is a problem. Yanjika slowed down the accelerator again and didn't know what to say. When the car stopped at the traffic light, she asked with anger and amusement, am I really that bad at driving? I feel that everything is smooth today except for the ignition at the beginning. It's not a problem of bad or not. You have the wrong mentality. You can't always think about overtaking others and driving so fast. You need to control yourself. If you often walk on the side of the road, your shoes will get wet. Lu Qing was afraid that Ku would have an accident when he wasn't with her, so he seriously reminded her. Yanjika pouted and said, okay, I'll try. The green light flashed and the car started again. This time, the girl listened to Lu Qing's advice and drove steadily. Occasionally, she wanted to overtake and speed up, but she noticed it in time and controlled herself. Where are we going for a ride? Lu Qing was in the mood to look at the scenery outside the car. He saw towering buildings and rivers of lights. Yanjika showed her dimples and said in a light tone, I'll take you to see the night market of Lining first and then to the river bank. The capital of Jiangnan province was called Lining. Night market? What's it like? Lu Qing thought of the flea market in Xiushan. Hey, you'll know when you get there. Yanjika kept him guessing with a smile on her face. The car turned left and right, and after half an hour they arrived at a bustling street. At a glance, the street was as bright as day, and simple shops were arranged in 3 rows, winding into the distance. There were people everywhere and voices filled the air. With the help of the reversing radar and images, Yanjika parked the car with a sense of accomplishment. Holding Lu Qing's hand, they entered the night market. There were all kinds of cheap goods such as clothes and mobile phone cases as well as a lot of delicious food. Lu Qing reached out his left hand and wrapped it around the girl's other shoulder. He pulled her closer to him, separating them from the pedestrians who were rubbing shoulders with each other so that they wouldn't brush against each other. The two of them walked and stopped. Yanjika fully enjoyed the pleasure of bargaining. Although she didn't like those things at all, she just wanted to experience life. She also sternly criticized Lu Qing, saying that he had never learned how to bargain. Every time he talked he would say, how much? 150? Can you make it cheaper? No. Fine, give it to me. After strolling for a while, Yanjika led Lu Qing to a roadside stall and asked for 2 big chicken steaks. While waiting she said, their family started from here and now it has become a national chain. But except for here the food in other places is not good. Really? I think the food in other stores is not bad. Lu Qing asked with interest. That's because you haven't eaten good food. Yanjika looked at her boyfriend with disdain, and then turned to sympathy. She laughed in a low voice and said, Poor child, I can only take you to broaden your horizons. While talking, the chicken steaks were ready and put into a bag. They each took a piece, held hands, and walked while eating. Both of them felt that this was especially like a student couple on a date. It's true. It's much better than those in Songqing. Lu Qing expressed his admiration and surprise while gnawing on the tender chicken steaks. He ate half of them in a few bites. Yanjika slightly raised her chin and smiled with a little pride. I told you, but you didn't believe me. Come, let's take a picture. She took out her phone and asked Lu Qing to lean his head and body over. They held the chicken steaks together and took a selfie. She didn't know when it started, but she, who didn't like to take pictures before, liked to record the interesting things they experienced together in this way. Click. Yanjika pursed her lips and tilted her head, outlining the beautiful image. Lu Qing showed his true colors indifferently. In the end, he laughed and said, Ku, you haven't eaten at roadside stalls before, right? Where did you hear about this chicken steaks? My cousin. Well, Sister Lingxi took me here once. Yanjika answered with a sweet smile. Sister Lingxi is indeed a veteran player. Lu Qing nodded in realization. Ji Lingxi was the eldest daughter of this generation of the Ji family, 4 years older than Ku. She was born with extraordinary strength, but she didn't like to practice martial arts. She walked the path of learning and management. She had reached the level of professional 9th pin in her first year of college, and was still at professional 9th pin in her 4th year of college. 2 years after graduation, she had just touched the threshold of Dan's stage. She was a very playful person. She did everything like skateboarding, surfing, singing and dancing, hiking, cruising, collecting and buying bags. In addition, she was also interested in experiencing the different characteristics of different places, discovering the delicious food and interesting shops by the roadside. She was the kind of person who could attend banquets and go to roadside stalls. Talking and laughing, they ate from the chicken steak stall to the end of the night market. They ate one stall after another, all of which were certified by the gourmet Ji Lingxi. They took a detour from the outside of the night market to the car. Yanjika led Lu Qing to the riverside, where the cool night wind blew, and they strolled to digest the food. Ningjiang's blue waves were wide and spacious. Looking at it, one would feel refreshed and refreshed. The water rushed into one's face, nourishing one's skin and soul. The girl pulled Lu Qing while walking beside the guardrail. She giggled and swayed as if she was still a little girl. It's getting late. We have to go back. She looked at her watch, still wanting to continue. We can stay out all night. Lu Qing instigated, half joking. Yanjika rolled her eyes at him and imitated his tone. Then you'll be chased by my grandpa and grandma all the way to 8th Streets. Shivering in fear. Lu Qing joked. It was his first day in the house, and he was already abducting someone's granddaughter to stay out all night. Was he asking for a beating? They opened the door and entered the car from the left and right sides. Yanjika had just sat down, but before she could fasten her seatbelt and turn on the ignition, she felt her body tilting and falling towards the passenger seat. She was pulled into Cheng's arms. You. Just as she raised her head, she saw Lu Cheng's burning black eyes. After experiencing the continuous bed and pillow sharing during the national competition, Lu Qing had been itching for a long time because of Yanjika and Ji Mingyu's interference in the past week. It was easy to go from frugal to extravagant, but difficult to go from extravagant to frugal. Yanjika closed her eyes, straightened her slender neck like a swan, and kissed him gently. She sat with her legs curled up, overlapping with her boyfriend. They were very close together. Lu Qing had already observed the surroundings, so he knew there was no one here. While kissing her passionately, he started to caress her shoulders, back, legs and feet and gradually went deeper. This seat. Can you put it upside down? Lu Qing asked eagerly when he kissed her ear. I can't do it like this. I don't know how to do it. You can search for it. Yanjika answered in a faint and confused voice. She didn't even know what she was saying. Search for it at this time? Lu Qing didn't want to be distracted. He couldn't wait to use forced concentration. He leaned close to her and knocked the seat over. At this moment, a sharp ringtone sounded and kept echoing. Yanjika pushed Lu Qing away and glared at him shyly. She pursed her moist lips, picked up the phone and answered the call. Hello, Sister Lingxi? You're back. Yes, we're outside. I brought Qing to the night market. Okay, we're on our way back. Lu Qing smiled helplessly and reached over to help Ku tidy up her clothes. Humph, it's so dangerous to be with you. Yanjika sat back in the driver's seat and calmed down. She started the ignition with a red face. I haven't been intimate with you for a long time. Lu Qing adjusted his pants. Yanjika glared at him and bit her lip. It'll be fine after a few days. Anyway, my period starts tomorrow. As she spoke, she couldn't help but laugh. I know. By the way, where's your aunt? Lu Qing changed the topic and asked about her real aunt. She went to Shushan study to take care of my brother. Yanjika calmed down and started the car. The journey was smooth and there were no accidents. 40 minutes later, they arrived at the Ji family's old residence. They parked the car and walked to the front door. Before Lu Cheng and Yanjika got close, they heard people talking inside. Mine costs more than 300,000 yuan per gram. It smells like medicine. It can cure many diseases. It's not as good as your prayer beads, Brother Li. My prayer beads are made of ordinary material. They were blessed by the eminent monks of Daxing Temple and nourished by chanting scriptures every day for half a year. I was very unlucky last year. My dad gave up his pride and asked for this. It's hard to tell how much it's worth. Okay, don't show off this every time. If you're so good, get us one each. What the hell? Lu Qing was at a loss. This was something he didn't understand at all. Yanjika glanced at him and said in a low voice, "Don't worry about them. They like to play these games. It's boring." She turned the doorknob and opened the door. 2 men and 2 women were chatting in the main hall. Lu Qing recognized Ji Lingxi immediately. She looked more like Empress Dowager than Ko. She was tall and elegant, but her eyebrows were not sharp enough. "You're back?" Ji Lingxi wore a white t-shirt, denim shorts and a pair of high-heeled sandals. She stood up with a smile and said, "Come, let me introduce you. This is the young master of the Jindi group, Zhang Li. His father has a good relationship with the high monks of Daxing Temple." Zhang Li had dark skin and ordinary features. He wore a string of dark brown prayer beads on his wrist. "This is Han Jingqiao. His mother is the chairman of our province's Martial Artist Association." Ji Lingxi smiled and pointed at the other person. Han Jingqiao was more handsome than Zhang Li, but he had heavy eye bags and lacked vitality. He was holding a green pendant in his hand. "This is Guogua. Could you know her? We've had dinner together a few times. Her father is independent now." Ji Lingxi looked at the girl with long wavy hair beside her. After that, she pointed at Yanjika and said, "You don't need me to tell you. This is my cousin Yanjika. Several guys want to pursue her. Unfortunately, before they could do anything, someone else beat them to it. Hey Ku, you introduce your boyfriend." Yanjika looked at Lu Cheng and thought for a while. Then she smiled and said simply without any suffixes, "He's Lu Cheng." Chapter 420. He's Lu Cheng. The 4 simple words made the atmosphere solemn. Zhang Li, Guogua, and the others were silent for more than 10 seconds. "Look, this is the heavenly son of the age." Ji Lingxi was the first to come back to her senses. She smiled and looked at her companions. Then she turned to Yanjika and complained, "When they heard Lu Cheng was coming, they were so excited and curious that they wanted to follow me home. They wanted to see what the heavenly son of the age looked like and see if he had 3 heads and 6 arms. So I'm a monster?" Lu Cheng replied humorously. No. You're not a monster. You've been practicing martial arts for a year and a half and you're already at the top of the 6th pin. You're not a monster, you're a Superman." Zhang Li smiled. He was relatively calm. He turned the dark brown Buddhist prayer beads in his left hand. "Yes, a Superman." Han Jingqiao agreed with an exaggerated smile. In the end, he asked in confusion, "Lu Cheng, why do I feel that you're a little different from the one on TV? What's different?" Lu Cheng looked at Yanjika with a smile and found that she was just as confused as he was. It had only been 5 or 6 days since he last entered the broadcast. Guogua was a short and petite girl, but her facial features were quite imposing. At this time she also muttered, "It's a little different. The you on TV is more flamboyant. You have a kind of temperament that makes people not dare to look at you directly." I know what's going on. During a fierce battle, you'll definitely release your momentum to oppress and influence your opponent's mind. When the battle was over and you were interviewed, you still haven't completely calmed down, Lu Cheng said in realization. His TV appearance was considered his battle form. So that's how it is. When you're idle, you're like a forest, but when you're fighting, you're like a fire. Zhang Li nodded thoughtfully. None of them were interested in martial arts. They would only watch the matches that attracted a lot of attention. Therefore, even though there were many powerful seniors around them, they didn't notice the details. After such small talk, the atmosphere was relatively lively. Ji Lingxi, Han Jingqiao, and the others sat down and began to chat about various things. It was obvious that they were focusing on Lu Cheng. Seeing that he was not very interested, they did not mention the rosary beads, the yellow jade ambergris and other things. Instead, they talked about the gossip of the martial arts circle. Lu Qing didn't care about what they were talking about. Even if one of their collections was worth more than all of his savings, he didn't feel the slightest bit inferior. Instead, he took it as an opportunity to broaden his horizons and listen quietly. Since he had the confidence, there was no harm in doing so. Time ticked by. Lu Qing tapped on his phone, looked at the screen and got up with a smile. It's getting late. I need to rest. You guys take your time. His tone was normal, but there was a hint of irrefutability in it. Ji Lingxi stood up as well and asked in surprise, "So early?" Since he started practicing martial arts, he's been living like an old man. "Yeah, so am I," Yanjika explained for her boyfriend with a smile. She also thought of an excuse for herself. "Then it's time for us to go back." Zhang Li turned the prayer beads and smiled. "We're going out to sea tomorrow. Do you want to join us? Let's go fishing and get some fresh air." Alright, there are a few fights on the open sea with no restrictions on life and death. There were referees in the challenge tournament. It was more exciting than exciting. Some rich people privately organized underground challenge tournament in war-torn areas and on the open sea to satisfy their own desires. Challenge tournament without referees. Even if no one died in the real fight, there would definitely be scenes of blood splattering everywhere and bones breaking, which would excite the beastly side of people. Of course, the fighters who were willing to make quick money in the challenge tournament weren't very strong. If there was a dance stage, 7th pin or 6th pin fighter, even if they owed a lot of money, there would be someone to vouch for them and they would have the opportunity to repay their debts slowly. No need. Lu Qing glanced at Yanjika and declined with a smile. Tomorrow he would stay at home with Ku and massage her belly. He had left this day empty in his previously cancelled travel plan. "Alright, I'll find you next time out at sea. With your listening skill, you'll definitely catch a lot of fish." Zhang Li didn't insist. He left the Ji family's old house with Han Jingqiao and Guogua and got into his SUV. He took off the dark brown prayer beads and put them on the gearshift. After a few seconds of silence, he asked, "What do you think? What do you think of Lu Qing?" "He's quite gentle, friendly, and introverted." Han Jingqiao rubbed his eye bags and answered seriously. "But don't you think his aura is very strong? It's the kind of feeling where you can do whatever you want and we can only listen obediently." Guogua frowned and said softly, "Ah, that's normal. That's the confidence of a mighty one accumulated through countless victories. My mother was the same. She didn't need to get angry or speak loudly. As long as she decided something, I wouldn't dare to say a word." Han Jingqiao laughed at himself. Let alone a heavenly son of the era like him. "Yeah." Zhang Li started the engine and started the car. "Anyway, regardless of whether he can become a physical invulnerability expert in the future, I think he'll definitely become an inhuman," Han Jingqiao added. "We're not strong and we don't have the heart to practice martial arts. It's good to make more friends like him." "Yo, I didn't expect our young Master Han, who loves wine, cars and women, to say something like that." Guogua laughed. Han Jingqiao was a typical spoiled brat. "This is called being prepared for danger in times of peace," he replied. Zhang Li nodded in agreement and said slowly, "I didn't advise you in vain. Why do you think Lingxi had to come back today? Is it because of their sisterly relationship?" "Isn't it?" Guogua and Han Jingqiao asked in surprise. Zhang Li chuckled. The Ji family is a typical martial arts family. Although they have a lot of assets, money and power, they're still ranked by their strength. Before he could finish, Guogua interrupted him. She played with her wavy hair and frowned. "Uncle Ji and his siblings are very close. They're very close. That's because old master and old madam are pressuring him. Haha, where there are people, there will be the underworld. Where there is money and power, there will be disputes. How many mistresses did Uncle Ji keep outside in order to have a strong son and daughter to stabilize his foundation? It's a pity that none of them are good enough. He doesn't even dare to bring them home." Zhang Li sighed. Lingxi has shed countless tears because of this. She may seem like a carefree playboy, but she knows better than anyone else. She knows she can't achieve anything in martial arts, so she doesn't want to fight for anything. She just wants to maintain her current status in life. It's the most reasonable and practical choice for her to continue befriending Yanjika. Especially since she has an amazing boyfriend, the kind that's really amazing. Lu Qing had been interacting with the Heavenly Sons of China recently, making it seem like there were many young martial artists of this level. In fact, there might not even be one in several provinces. At least Zhang Li and Han Jingqiao were around. Previously, only Lin Ke was slightly close. In a situation where a high-ranked dance stage inhuman could become the upper class of a province, it was normal for the Heavenly Sons of China, who had a high chance of reaching the physical invulnerability stage, to be highly valued. Brother Li. Han Jingchao was stunned. He couldn't help but gasp. You're really good at hiding your strength. You see things so clearly. Zhang Li sneered. My family has a lot of people. If I were really stupid, I would have been swallowed up by others. How could I be the young master? He sighed again. I'm really envious of Lu Cheng and the others. They're strong and don't have to worry about scheming. Anyway, I'm waiting for a chance to help him or be helped by him. Either way, it would improve their relationship. In the guest room of the Ji family's old house, Lu Cheng didn't try to sneak into the room under the watch of a physical invulnerability expert. After washing up, he lay on the bed and received a call from his mother. After a few words, Qi Feng said mysteriously, Your brother has made a fortune recently. Lu Cheng was dumbfounded. Lu Yanwei really succeeded in starting his own business? I haven't heard him mention it recently. Erzi has expanded his business to Xioshan. He asked your brother to help him and even gave him shares. Qi Feng gossiped excitedly. She wasn't jealous because of this. After all, her son was very promising and not just anyone could catch up with him. Lu Cheng was stunned for a moment. Who's Erzi? Qi Feng didn't know what to say. After a while she said, He's a relative from Qingfu. He often comes to visit your grandparents recently. I remember now. He's a nice guy. Lu Cheng said perfunctorily. He has no taste. How could he ask your brother for help? Look at how many things he has failed. Qi Feng insisted that Lu Yanwei didn't have the ability to start his own business. It doesn't matter. After all, we're not the ones who suffer losses. Lu Cheng laughed. That's true. Also, your dad got promoted recently. Fatigua put him in charge of the whole factory and gave him shares. Cheng, don't you think it's because of you? You just won the national championship and Fatigua mentioned it. What's that idiom? What's that? Qi Feng didn't know much about it. Icing on the cake. Lu Cheng helped his mother add, Fatigua is a nice guy. Didn't he help me in my hour of need back then? That's true. Anyway, if he really asks you for help, don't worry about us. Help if you can. Don't worry if you can't. Qi Feng said with concern. Yes, yes, yes. Lu Cheng replied with a smile. After the phone call ended and the surroundings quieted down, he sighed with emotion. After he won the national championship and gained the reputation of being the heavenly son of the age, everything around him was changing. It might have happened in the past, but it was definitely not as obvious as now. Without him saying anything, the fate of his relatives and friends had changed. Until now, Lu Cheng really understood what it meant to change one's status. Chapter 421. While Lu Cheng was on the phone with Qi Feng, Ji Lingxi kicked off her slippers and sat cross-legged on the bed in Yanjika's private bedroom. She looked at her cousin who had just changed into her nightgown with a faint smile. Ko, you're so good at keeping secrets. Do you still think I'm your sister? I saw you hugging Lu Cheng in the finals a few days ago. That's how I guessed you two were together. If it were before today, Yanjika would have been a little proud of her cousin's words. However, the truth told by Lu Cheng had dispelled her complacency. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She replied, I didn't mean to lie to anyone. Grandpa and Grandma already knew. Sister Lingxi, it's because you're living too freely and don't care about me. That's why you didn't find out, right? She had kept it a secret for a long time. Except for her father, she couldn't keep it a secret from anyone. Why was she so careful with Cheng in the beginning? Ji Lingxi was at a loss for words. She combed her hair and said, Didn't I tell you that some guys wanted to pursue you? What did you tell me? I don't want to find a boyfriend for the time being. Isn't that a lie? She changed her voice and tone to Yanjika's to describe the original words. I didn't lie to you. I already have a boyfriend. Of course I won't find another one. I have to be wholehearted in love. How can I have a foot in two boats? Yanjika retorted righteously. As she spoke, her lips curved into an unconcealable smile. I've already thought about how to explain it. Ji Lingxi's mouth twitched. She said bitterly, I really want to pinch your face. In childhood, Yanjika had cute baby fat. Ji Lingxi almost developed the hobby of pinching her face. Without waiting for her cousin to speak, she changed the topic and gossiped excitedly. Ko, when did you and Ching get together? How long? She had asked similar questions on QQ before, but Yanjika always changed the topic skillfully. She didn't want to share her and Cheng's private affairs with others, even her cousin. Now Ji Lingxi finally had a chance to interrogate her directly. Yanjika's eyebrows twitched. She pursed her pink lips and answered reluctantly, We got together on Valentine's Day last year, Speaking of this, she suddenly felt sweet and unknowingly added, he chased after me for a semester. Ayaya, I really want Ching to chase after me again. I didn't feel anything back then and didn't get to enjoy it properly. Valentine's Day last year? At that time, Lu Qing hadn't reached 9th pin yet, right? Ji Lingxi recalled the introduction she had read about Lu Cheng. Probably a weak 9th pin, Yan Zhika retorted seriously. Ji Lingxi took a deep breath and furrowed her brows. She said in surprise, in other words, when you two got together, he was just a newcomer who didn't show any signs of becoming a heavenly son of the age at all. You have good taste. At that time, I didn't think that he would be so talented as to reach rank 6 so quickly. Yan Zhika rolled her eyes and bit her pink lips. She said, I just felt that he was silly and very attentive to me. Yes, very attentive. He was also very motivated and willing to work hard. Chatting with him and going through the challenge tournament with him were very interesting. That's why I fell in love with him. As she spoke, her tone gradually softened. Obvious sweetness and happiness overflowed between her eyebrows. Her eyes were like ripples in the spring breeze. At this moment, Ji Lingxi felt that her cousin was too beautiful to look at directly. She was blinded by the happiness in her words. Why were all my 3 boyfriends useless and unmotivated? But Cook could pick an old classmate who had just reached 9th pin and pick a heavenly son of the age? Was there really something wrong with her taste or the standard of her choice? After Yan Zhika finished her narration, she stopped reminiscing and looked at her cousin with gentle and bright eyes. She waved her white hand in front of her. Sister Lingxi? Ji Lingxi came back to her senses and decided not to continue this topic that would make her feel sad. She chuckled and said, Ku, did I disturb you and Lu Qing by calling you before? Yan Zhika was stunned at first, but then she understood. Thinking of the charm in the car, she couldn't help but blush and deny it. Of course not. Hey, I'm experienced. First love aside, I have at least 2 serious ones. When you picked up the phone, even as a woman, my heart skipped a beat. If it were a man, he would have knelt down and said, Okay, I'll listen to you. I'll give you whatever you want. Ji Lingxi said. Ji Lingxi teased. She reached out and poked her cousin's collarbone. Besides, isn't there physical evidence? Yan Zhika looked down blankly and saw a red, obvious kiss mark on her delicate collarbone. Her collar was wrinkled with gauze and covered her collarbone in a refined and elegant manner. Even Lu Qing didn't notice that he had left a mark. It was only when she changed into her nightgown that everything was exposed. All of a sudden, Yan Zhika felt her face burning. She wished she could find a hole and hide in it. She had a subtle feeling of being caught red-handed in bed. She jumped out of bed in embarrassment and anger and ran to the dressing mirror. She took a selfie on her collarbone and sent it to Lu Qing. It's all your fault. It's all your fault. My cousin saw it. Lu Qing had just finished lamenting that the fate of his relatives and friends had changed because of him when he saw the girl's message. I was too excited just now. Ji Lingxi saw the whole process of Yan Zhika getting out of bed and taking a selfie. She suddenly felt a sense of loss. This was the kind of pureness and passion that only real first love had. Her first love, which was like a child's play, came to an abrupt end. It couldn't even be considered a first love. By the time she fell in love with him for the second time, she loved him so much that they hurt each other so much that they broke up in the end. By the time she had a boyfriend for the 3rd time, her heart had already aged. She thought more and did less. She was no longer pure and unrestrained. Seeing Yan Zhika come back bashfully, Ji Lingxi adjusted her mood and smiled. Cool, let's sleep together tonight. I have a lot of things to ask you. Okay. Yan Zhika hesitated for a while and then nodded. When Ji Lingxi went back to the bedroom to take a shower and change into her nightgown, she lay on the bed and buried her face in the pillow. She raised her legs and swung them. She had planned to calm down and get rid of the blush on her cheeks. However, she inexplicably recalled the passion by the river and the panic between them. Yan Zhika suddenly sat up and bit her lower lip. She picked up her phone and opened the search page. She seriously thought about the brand and model of the car she had driven before. Then, she bashfully typed a line of words in the search bar with a hint of a smile. Can the passenger seat of XXX car be flat? How do I do it? Click. The search results refreshed. Yan Zhika had just browsed a few when she suddenly received a message from her boyfriend. Ko, what's the brand and model of the car we just drove out of? Lu Qing asked with an emoji pushing up his sunglasses. Seeing the familiar question, Yan Zhika's face turned red again. She replied with 2 words, pervert. Pervert? Lu Qing looked at the inexplicable answer and scratched his head in confusion. I just thought that this car was good. It was fast and stable. If I need a car in the future, I can consider it. That's why I asked. How did I become a pervert? The next morning, Lu Qing temporarily put his doubts to the back of his mind. He got up on time, washed up, and went out. He found a corner in the spacious courtyard of the Ji family's old house. Breathing in the fresh air, he visualized the swordsman formula and the corresponding internal training methods of Frost Force and Zhurong Force. The injury on his arm would be healed by the end of May. Therefore, he was not in a hurry to practice his moves. Instead, he concentrated his qi and blood to comprehend the force concentration of the balance between ice and fire. In practice, he felt the experience of the yin and yang two forms that old Master Ji had shown him yesterday. The key to the inhuman level was the strengthening of one's willpower and the improvement of one's mental control over one's root pulp. Under the accumulation of internal training, one's body would show signs of supernatural abilities, and one's quality would change. However, this did not mean that one could enter the inhuman level seamlessly with supernatural abilities. Possessing certain characteristics due to this realm and possessing similar characteristics due to certain characteristics were completely different. They were fundamentally different. Lu Cheng's ice and fire supernatural ability came from the stimulation of the Jin Dan and the blending of power, which was different from his Frost Force and Zhurong Force. If he wanted to enter the inhuman level, he still had to follow the prescribed internal training and change his root pulp so that it was compatible with the martial arts instead of the Jindan. When the supernatural ability of ice and fire, Frost Force, and Zhurong Force were perfectly integrated, there would be no difference. That was one of the main conditions to enter the inhuman level. His qi and blood, spirit, and force all contracted and embraced each other in balance. Then they quickly collapsed and rushed out. Lu Qing observed the subtle changes in his body, looking for the traces of the changes of yin and yang, ice and fire. Unknowingly, the sky was bright and the sun was piercing. Lu Qing put away his stance and exhaled a mouthful of foul air, ending the morning training. His physical qualities were not at the level of the top sixth pin. How could he enter the inhuman level in one step? Calming down, Lu Qing returned to the house and met Ji Jianzhang and Dou Ning, who had also returned from training. They nodded in satisfaction. After breakfast, Ji Lingxi went out to sea to play. Yanjika's stomach started to hurt, so she went back to her room to lie down. Lu Qing went to sleep beside her and rubbed her stomach with his warm hands. Yanjika felt the familiar support and the care to relieve the pain. She felt that the pain was not so bad. Sneaking a glance at Lu Qing, she suddenly recalled what her cousin Ji Lingxi had said last night. "Ku, are you still going abroad?" "Yes." "Are you willing to give up your Lu Qing? Are you not afraid? Are you not afraid of problems?" "I believe in him and I believe in myself." "Then enjoy it. There is only 1 year and 3 months left." Hearing this, Yanjika's mood inexplicably darkened. She couldn't help but lean closer to Lu Qing. "There is only 1 year left. I have to cherish every day with Cheng." After the pain of the first day passed, Lu Qing and Yanjika had a good time in Linning with their tour guide Ji Lingxi. On the afternoon of the 4th, they set off on their return journey. In the past few days, except for her aunt who went to Shushan study to take care of Lin Ke, Yanjika's uncles, Ling Feng and Ling Yun all had excuses to not come back. When they returned to campus, Lu Qing and Yanjika's life was once again fulfilling. Every day they had to work overtime to make up for the classes they missed. Fortunately, during the national competition they rarely went out. After watching the videos of their opponents, they spent most of their time studying. Finally, they caught up with the progress before the final exam and were confident about their grades. After the last exam, Yanjika was about to wait for Lu Qing when the class monitor told her to go to the school office. "Qing, I'm going to the lower house office. Wait for me after the exam." She sent a message with her dimples. Then she followed the class monitor to the dean's office and saw 3 classmates who were in the same training program as her. When the dean saw that everyone was present, he crossed his arms and coughed. "Ivan University has made a request. They hope that the training program can be advanced by 1 year and you can go there in your 3rd year. This way you can adapt better and learn better. The school has thought about it and thinks it's a good idea." Seeing the dean's mouth open and close, Yanjika didn't hear the rest of his words. There was only one thought echoing in her mind. 1 year ahead, 1 year ahead. Chapter 422. 1 year in advance, 1 year in advance. At this moment, Yanjika didn't feel happy at all. Instead, she felt flustered and sad as if she had been diagnosed with a terminal illness. At the beginning of May, when Ji Lingxi asked her if she still insisted on going abroad, her answer was firm and resolute. However, when everything happened in advance, she suddenly felt the strong reluctance in her heart. She had promised to go drifting with Cheng during the summer vacation, to go to the northern lands to see the aurora in January next year, to spend her and Cheng's 21st birthday together, to go to Yuanyang Mountain to ask for the lock of love on their second anniversary together, to announce their relationship after meeting his parents, to stick together every day, and to whisper sweet nothings to each other. She thought too much, promised too much and had too little time. Bring the materials. I just mentioned here as soon as possible. The school will help you with all the procedures. If everything goes well, you can leave at the beginning of August. There will be a short-term language training program. I believe it will be easy for you with your foreign language foundation. Well, you can go back now. If you can't remember the materials, here is the list. The dean stroked his increasingly precious hair tenderly. Early August? It's the end of June. That means there is only 1 month left. In 30 days I will be separated from Cheng. I can only see him 2 or 3 times a year. Yenjika suddenly felt breathless and her heart tightened. She endured the sudden throbbing, took the list blankly, and followed the students in front of her out of the dean's office. Yenjika? Suddenly she heard a slightly shrill voice. Yenjika came back to herself and looked up at Huang Shiwen. Huang Shiwen was the one who had received the same training quota as her. Huang Shiwen was the one who had called her just now. What? Yenjika responded blankly. What were you thinking about? I said, when we get there we can live together, okay? We know each other and are classmates. We can take care of each other. Huang Shiwen complained and repeated what she had just said. Her chubby face washed away her gorgeous features, making her easy to get close to. The 2 boys beside her were also discussing the same thing. Yenjika was a girl who would never cry when she was sad. She was used to keeping all kinds of negative emotions in the bottom of her heart and not letting them out. When Huang Shiwen finished, she had already controlled herself and answered with a faint smile, okay, if there is no other arrangement at home. They were all classmates and didn't lack each other's contact information. Without saying much, they parted ways in front of the school building, each with their own business. On the way to the basic teaching building, Yenjika wandered under the shade of the trees, tasting the reluctance and nostalgia in her heart. She had been gone for at most 5 to 6 years or at least 3 to 4 years. She had been gone for more than 1,000 days and nights, longer than the time I had spent with Cheng. There were many accidents, many coincidences, many tests and many suspicions. If she was not careful, her feelings would be fragile and dissipate. Even if I don't go abroad, I can still study deeply, share the Empress Dowager's worries, and do whatever I want in the field I like. Wouldn't it be nice to be with Cheng every day, accompanying him as he climbed to the peak of martial arts, sharing his pain and suffering, feeling his happiness, anger and sadness, and watching each other grow old bit by bit until the end? But if I really give up, I will regret it for the rest of my life. I will feel that my years of effort have been wasted. I will feel that my personality is no longer complete and I will become Cheng's accessory, dream or love. Once again Yenjika sighed as if a hero's breath was short of love. Maybe it's really like what Dad and Empress Dowager said. It's best not to fall in love in college and to go easy. At this moment, a melody inexplicably appeared in her mind. If there is no you and no past, I won't be sad. But if there is an if, I will still love you. Yes, no matter what, I still want to love that silly Cheng. Yenjika bit her lip. Her emotions rose and fell. After a painful struggle, she decided to take the opportunity to study abroad. I believe in myself and Cheng. I believe that we can withstand the test of time and distance. I believe that we can finally walk together and go through all the hardships and happiness in life. Phew. She spat out the melancholy and sadness in her heart. Then she heard the special notification sound of her phone. She took it out of her bag and found that it was a message from Lu Cheng. Ku, are you still not done? Do you want me to pick you up at your school building? Yenjika's eyes turned red because of this simple sentence. She turned her head and looked aside. After a while, she replied with an expression that looked like she was crying and laughing at the same time. I'm done. You stand there and wait for me? Her fingers paused in the middle of typing and then she pretended to type the last few words. I'll pick you up, okay, the usual place. Lu Cheng replied with a silly smile. At this moment his phone suddenly rang. It was from his mother. Hello Cheng. Have you finished your exams? How do you feel? Chi Fang asked about his studies out of habit. Just right. Not bad. Lu Cheng couldn't find any other words to describe it. His grades were probably above 60 or 70. He probably didn't fail any subjects. Chi Fang didn't really care about her son's studies. After a short sentence, she asked the key question. When will you come back? Have you booked the tickets? She lowered her voice and said excitedly, Ching, why don't you bring that classmate of yours home and let mom and dad meet her? It's that Yenjika. You two are destined to meet. High school classmate, college classmate, martial arts club teammate. After defeating Shanbei in the finals, Yenjika and Lu Qing hugged each other passionately and almost kissed each other, which blinded a group of single dogs. At the same time, it also exposed their relationship in front of Lu Jisheng and Qi Fang. That night, during their daily call, Lu Qing witnessed his mother's ability to gossip and was bombarded for a long time. After her son finally grew up and had a wife, he almost forgot about his mother. Qi Fang was quite satisfied with Yenjika, who was very good in all aspects. Plus, they were from the same hometown, so she was more satisfied with them. She kept urging her son to bring his girlfriend back and let them meet her. To be honest, if her son didn't win the national championship and was called the heavenly son of the age, she felt that she would be more nervous. She was worried that her son didn't deserve her daughter-in-law and that they would fall in love in the future. Yes, that's right, that's a phrase she just learned from TV. Mom, I've told Ku that I'll bring her to our house when I'm free when I'm back in Xioshan. Lu Qing didn't specify a specific day because he still wanted to abduct Ku and try to find a place to go on a trip with her before they returned to Xioshan. Okay. You have to tell me in advance. I have to go grocery shopping and prepare a welcome gift. Qi Fang rambled on. Suddenly she remembered something. Come to my door. Oh, last summer, didn't Han Er's wife say that a very beautiful girl came to our neighborhood? I wonder whose girlfriend she is. Qing, tell me honestly, it's Yenjika, right? She's here for you, right? Yes. Lu Qing wiped his cold sweat and admired his mother's memory of gossip. Of course, he also had a deep impression of this matter because it was the first time in his memory that he saw and felt the beautiful body of a girl in real life. Moreover, it was the body of his beloved girl. You two were together at that time? Qi Fang's voice suddenly rose. You're all grown up now, aren't you? You hid it from me for almost a year. Mom, I was wrong. I wanted to tell you after my relationship with Ku had been confirmed. Lu Qing's apology came naturally to his mother. Practice made perfect. Qi Fang wasn't angry. She pondered for a moment and said, I told you that you look very smart in your clothes for more than a year. Fortunately, her son dared to bring his girlfriend home secretly after he went to college, unlike the others who were caught fooling around at home in junior high or high school. After chatting for a while, Lu Qing hung up the phone and saw Ku walking quickly toward him. She was dressed in a t-shirt, denim shorts and white sneakers, which showed the youthful look of a student. What are you going to do in the institute? Lu Qing asked with concern. Yenjika pursed her lips and lowered her eyebrows. She smiled and said, there are some changes to the training plan. I'll tell you after it's confirmed. Who were you talking to on the phone? My mom. She urged me to take you home to meet my parents. Lu Qing raised his eyebrows and smiled deliberately. He muttered in his heart, some changes? What changes? He always paid special attention to Ko Qian's affairs. Yenjika, who wanted to say something coquettishly, opened her mouth a few times and only said 3 words with a smile. Okay. Aren't you nervous? Lu Qing asked in surprise. Yenjika was amused. She stared at him and said, it's because you keep telling me that your parents are very nice and satisfied with me. I'm not nervous. You're right. It's good that you're not nervous. Lu Qing asked with expectation, then when do we go back? How about we find a place to hang out for a few days and have a date? Yenjika raised her eyebrows and looked at him deeply. She took the initiative to suggest, well, let's hang out in Songqing for a few days? There were too many memories of her and Cheng here. Okay, I'll make a guide later. Let's see what's worth playing and eating in Songqing. Lu Qing didn't really care where they went. What was important was to be with his little fairy. Yenjika tilted her head and outlined her dimples. She waved her hand happily. Let's go to the aquarium in the afternoon. We've been talking about going but we've missed it. Speaking of this, she laughed and said, how much do you remember about marine biology? I've almost forgotten. Lu Qing deliberately covered his face and sighed. Yenjika laughed and said, that's good. Otherwise I'll look very ignorant. I'll go back and change my clothes and wipe my face first. I have to take my date with Cheng seriously. Infected by his girlfriend's unexpected excitement and joy, Lu Qing was in high spirits. After returning to the dormitory, he quickly packed his luggage and waved goodbye to Zhao Chang, Kai Zongming and the others. It was cool today, not as hot as a few days ago. Lu Qing waited for a while and saw Yenjika coming out with a suitcase. She had changed her clothes. She was wearing a white cotton skirt, a pink jacket, a pair of cute canvas shoes and skin-tight stockings. Her face was covered with light makeup, which made her already beautiful face even more radiant. This was how she looked when she invited Lu Qing to the aquarium in March last year. Lu Qing was really amazed at that time and had a deep impression of her. After taking the suitcase, he said with confusion and amusement, "Ku, are you going to relive the past? You still remember?" Yenjika asked in surprise. "Of course, I almost couldn't move my eyes away. How could I forget?" Lu Qing said with a smile. Yenjika chuckled a little complacently, clenched her fist and waved it. "This is a date to make up for last year's regret, so it's still the same." "I'm looking forward to it," Lu Qing replied with a bright smile. Then he coughed and said with expectation, "I've already booked a hotel. Just one room. With my current relationship with Ku, there's no need to secretly book 2 rooms, right?" "Okay." Yenjika looked forward and nodded slightly. Chapter 423. Lu Qing was overjoyed to hear his girlfriend's affirmative answer. He quickened his pace and felt that they had made a breakthrough in their relationship. He didn't continue to mention the accommodation because he didn't want to aggravate her shyness. Instead he started to ponder. A date to make up for last year's regret? Everything as usual? But I don't remember what I was wearing at that time. Yenjika thought about it seriously and burst into laughter. I don't remember either. She only remembered Cheng's tired face, his slightly wrinkled eyebrows, and his movements that made her want to kiss him. Thinking of this, she pursed her lips and lowered her head. Her eyes flickered as she looked at her toes. She wrapped her arms around her boyfriend's arms and leaned closer to him. "It's okay. Rough guys wear the same clothes every day. Just put up with it. There's no difference." Lu Qing mocked himself in the way girls usually did. While talking and laughing, they boarded the school bus and arrived downtown. They found the 5-star hotel that Lu Qing had booked. While walking to the front desk, Yenjika suddenly stopped and looked aside. She pretended to take out her ID card from her bag and said, "You go and check in. I'll wait for you here." As she spoke, an unnatural blush appeared on her cheeks. Seeing this, Lu Qing understood. He held back his laughter and took the girl's ID card. He said calmly, "Okay." Previously, when he didn't return home at night, he had booked 2 rooms at first and then cancelled them later. Moreover, he had always appeared alone and asked Ku to face the front desk with him. Just one room was indeed difficult for a shy girl like her. Well, after a few more times she would get used to it. Now she would leave it to a thick-skinned boy. Putting down their luggage, Lu Qing came to the front desk and handed over their ID cards. "We booked it online." The girl at the front desk looked up at him and was suddenly stunned. She blurted out, "Lu Qing? You know me?" Lu Qing asked in amusement. "Yes." The girl at the front desk nodded hard. "I watched your national competition. I really liked your performance. You were so awesome and handsome." She was a little excited. "Well, I'm really famous now. I have to wear glasses as a disguise." Lu Qing thought and smiled. Thank you. Give me your autograph later." The receptionist picked up his ID card and began to check in. She was stunned for a moment and said, "2 people? This is F***ing embarrassing." Lu Qing said shamelessly, "Yeah, me and my girlfriend." "Oh." The girl at the front desk didn't say anything else. She quickly made a copy of his ID card and completed the check-in procedures. In the end, she handed the form to Lu Qing and said, "Sign your name here. Also, sign your name on this piece of paper for me. For you, shall we?" After he was done, Lu Qing took the room card and returned to Yenjika. 1506. Yenjika looked at the receptionist curiously. "What were you talking about?" "The girl at the front desk has watched the nationals and knows me. She asked me for an autograph," Lu Qing answered honestly. Yenjika froze for a moment, her face turning bright red at a speed visible to the naked eye. She hurriedly turned around and said shyly to the door, I don't live here anymore." The first time she shared a room with Cheng, she met his fans. I am too ashamed to meet them. If I had known, I would have checked in alone and let Cheng sneak into the room." "What are you afraid of? We are perfectly justified." Lu Qing comforted her with a smile. "We have already gotten the room card. Others have already begun to think what they want. Just let them be." Yenjika had the mentality to throw away everything. She restrained her emotions and followed her boyfriend to the 15th floor, putting their luggage in the room. "What are we having for lunch?" Lu Qing looked at the cloudy sky outside the window and asked. Their exam was the first round, which ended at 10 o'clock. It was only 12 o'clock now. Yenjika didn't think as if she had already thought of the answer. Spicy crab on the tripod. The one where we had our first date. How could Lu Qing forget this? Yeah. I want to reminisce. Yenjika nodded cutely. After a little tidying up, they went out hand in hand and took a taxi to the place where they had their first date last year. Luckily the door was still open. Lu Qing looked at the sign of spicy crab on the tripod, and felt happy. For the place that carried his beautiful memories, he definitely hoped that it would stay there forever and never change. So did Yenjika. Her dimples deepened and her smile became sweeter. When they entered the restaurant, the waiter was just about to greet them. Before he could say anything, Lu Qing saw the price tag and said quickly, the one that costs 199 yuan, 12 crab, hand-fried noodles, shrimp dumplings, beef. The waiter was stunned for a few seconds and said, please slow down. I'll remember it. Shouldn't you order the crab first and then check the other options on the menu after sitting down? Yenjika couldn't hide her smile. These were all the dishes they had ordered on their first date, but the quantity was more than double. Qing still remembers. Her eyes softened and she deliberately said jokingly, wow, you're getting better at answering first. Hey, they're all the dishes we ordered last time. Lu Qing led Ku to a seat and sat down. You still remember? Yenjika rested her chin on one hand and looked at him with bright eyes. Lu Qing chuckled and said, at that time I observed what you liked to eat and what you didn't like to eat, so I had some impression of the dishes you ordered. At first, it was a little vague and I only had a vague memory of it. Now that I am here, I remember it. Listening to her boyfriend showing off, Yenjika's eyes welled up with tears. She quickly turned her head to the side and held back the throbbing in her heart. After a few seconds, she changed the topic and said coquettishly, I also paid attention to what you didn't like, but you didn't eat anything. This shows that I'm easy to take care of. I eat whatever I'm given. Lu Qing smiled and praised himself. Well, if little Ming was opposite, he would probably say, do you eat sh*t if I give you sh*t? But Ku would definitely not do that. Then I'll give you the leftovers in the future. Yenjika tried to make her tone light. As usual, the two ate to their heart's content. Their appetite was so big that they ordered 2 more dishes. The waiter was stunned. He saw the boss and insisted on giving them VIP cards. In such a mid-priced restaurant with no luxurious dishes, the two of them could eat more than 3,000 yuan. No matter where they were, they could get the VIP treatment. After finishing their meal, Lu Qing and Yenjika walked along the route of their first date. Qing, do you still remember where you held my hand? The girl asked with great interest. Lu Qing seriously recalled and said with self-mockery, I didn't pay attention to where we were and where we were. My mind was full of whether to hold your hand, how to hold it, and whether you would shake it off. When we really held hands, I was so excited and happy that I forgot the directions. I only had you and your hand in my heart. It was like walking on clouds so light that I wanted to fly. Yenjika pursed her lips and rolled her eyes. She seemed to really feel her boyfriend's state at that time. It was as if a sudden joy hit her heart. She turned her head and looked at the side of the street. She was actually a bit shaken by the decision she made in the morning. What about you? Do you still remember where we tied the knot? Lu Qing asked in reply. Yenjika rolled her eyes and pouted. If you don't remember, how can I remember? At that time I was very nervous. My mind was on your hand that kept leaning towards me. I wondered if you were going to hold my hand, how I should react, whether I would hurt you, whether I was reserved enough, whether I was... In short, my mind was full of random thoughts. I was lucky that I didn't bump into anyone else. Later on, I realized that you were stupid and silly and even held hands foolishly. My heart softened, and I inexplicably took the initiative to hold your hand. Speaking of this, both of them completely recalled the naivety, ignorance, sweetness and passion of that time. They smiled at each other and raised their hands that had been intertwined since they came out of the meal. Although they didn't have the mentality of not knowing where to go when holding hands, they held hands more calmly and firmly. There was a faint sense of permanence. In this way the two walked side by side on the street, warm and sweet. Do you remember that we bought a fresh cream cake here? Lu Qing smiled and pointed at the sign of Mimi bread. Yenjika bit her lip and chuckled. Not only do I remember that, but I also remember that someone lied to me. Lu Qing was at a loss. Someone told me that the fresh cream cake here was not so sweet and was suitable for me. He said he found it on the internet. Yenjika hummed. The sweetness was just right, but I couldn't find this shop on the internet. Lu Qing suddenly realized what was going on. He smiled embarrassedly. I came here to check it out and try it. At that time, didn't you say that you still need to adjust your mentality and not fully prepared? I was afraid that if I said it, it would be like forcing you to be moved and giving you too much pressure. Before he finished, Yenjika's eyes were already red and rippling. She suddenly took a step forward and threw herself into his arms. She hugged him tightly and buried her face in his shoulder. What's wrong? Lu Qing was startled. Yenjika tried to hold back her tears. Can't I be moved? Lu Qing stroked the girl's glossy black hair and smiled contentedly. It was always a joyful thing to get a response for one's efforts. Let's buy another fresh cream cake later and eat it together tonight. After a while, Yenjika withdrew from Lu Qing's arms and her expression returned to normal. Lu Qing pulled her into the bakery. After buying the cake, they took a taxi to the ocean aquarium. This time, there was no unexpected situation to interrupt them. Look, this is a starfish. After tearing it into pieces, each piece can become a new starfish. Lu Qing pointed to a creature behind the glass. Yenjika was surprised. Didn't you say that you had almost forgotten your marine biology? When I was waiting for you, I crammed it again. Lu Qing answered complacently and pointed to a kind of marine creature. It is, damn it, I forgot. I failed to show off and became a clown. Haha. Yenjika covered her mouth and laughed until tears came out. After a long time, she wiped her eyes and said, there should be an introduction beside it. If you really can't find it, I'll allow you to search it on your phone, commentator Lu. They laughed and laughed until the aquarium was closed. They found the restaurant where they had their second date and enjoyed dinner. Lu Qing pretended to go to the bathroom and went downstairs to buy a bouquet of flowers as usual. Beauty, you dropped something. He put his left hand behind his back and smiled at Yenjika. Familiar lines and familiar scenes. Yenjika opened her mouth little by little and her eyes were covered with tears. She forced a smile. Flowers? Yes, you dropped it. Lu Qing bowed slightly like a gentleman and handed the flowers to the girl. Yenjika held the flowers and quickly closed her eyes, pretending to smell the fragrance. After a long time, she looked at Lu Qing and said, but I dropped something else. What? Lu Qing asked with a smile. Yenjika's eyes flashed like water. She pursed her lips and turned her head. Boyfriend. Lu Qing burst into laughter and directly sat next to the girl. Their fingers were intertwined. While he was happy, he inexplicably felt that Ku was a little clingy today. After dinner and a walk, Yenjika and Lu Qing returned to the hotel with the flowers and cake. The light in the room was dim. Outside the window there was a river of stars. It was quiet and private. Lu Qing, who had shared a bed many times, couldn't help but think as if he was looking forward to something. At this moment, Yenjika put the bouquet on the table and sat on the edge of the bed. She touched her calf and stomach and said softly, I feel so sore when I walk. Qing, come and help me massage my feet. Pinch my legs. This was a common thing between the two of them, so there was nothing strange about it. However, as she spoke, she suddenly blushed. Unable to hide her shyness, she lowered her head and looked at her right hand that was supporting the bed. Her right hand was as beautiful as a budding flower. Lu Qing's heart skipped a beat when he heard this. Chapter 424. Was Ku inviting someone to join her? While thinking of this, he forgot about the fresh cream cake and threw it aside. He walked to the bedside, squatted down and held Yenjika's left ankle. Just as he touched her silky smooth skin, he suddenly heard the girl's skin and muscles trembling. He heard her heart beating faster and faster. He heard her body temperature gradually increasing. This reaction was completely different from the usual before a massage. Dong dong dong. Every heartbeat of Yenjika's seemed to resonate with Lu Qing's heart, making his mouth dry and his body hot. He was inexplicably looking forward to something. There was no other contact, no other ambiguity. He already felt his blood vessels swelling as he tried to do it as usual. During this process, Yenjika's heart beat faster and faster. Lu Qing held his breath, feeling that he was about to turn into a werewolf. Dong dong dong. The slightest provocation was like the last straw that broke the camel's back, like the call from the little fairy, like the starting gun. Lu Qing suddenly lost control and lowered his head. This place has been sacrificed to the divine beast. The night was short but the passion was long. After a series of ups and downs, Lu Qing woke up under the urging of his biological clock. His nose was filled with a faint fragrance and his body was warm and soft. Everything was like a beautiful dream. Recalling the events of last night, he unconsciously revealed a silly smile. He only felt that his body and mind were satisfied, and his spirit was perfect. Everything in this world was so beautiful. He raised his head slightly and looked at Yenjika, who was curled up in his arms like a child. He looked at her painful and pure expression, which made him want to protect her. He looked at her beautiful face, which was set off by her long black hair. He felt the girl's delicate skin and the touch that he couldn't bear to part with. He felt her clinging to him as if she was afraid of losing him. Lu Cheng felt that his heart was about to melt. He could still hear the words Cheng echoing in his ears. This was the fusion of spirit and flesh. This was the other person I was closest to. This is the girl I want to protect for the rest of my life. He lowered his head devoutly and kissed the girl's long eyelashes and red lips. His hands began to move unconsciously, making the early morning hostility even more fierce. I won't do it again. Yenjika hit him in a daze and mumbled. She turned over and fell asleep again. It took Lu Cheng a great deal of willpower to get out of bed. He even began to worry about how upset Ku would feel if she didn't see him when she woke up. He almost didn't want to go for his morning exercise. Is this what Ku always says? Long love is short of breath? He laughed at himself, changed his clothes and went out. He found a place nearby and began to train. Both his mind and body were very excited. Although he had slept for less than 2 hours last night, he did not feel tired at all. People are in high spirits when faced with happy events. After finishing the rest of the internal training, Lu Cheng once again tried to comprehend the force concentration. He felt that his willpower had become stronger and firmer. He felt that no one or anything could defeat him. This is the life I want to protect. Ice and fire intertwined, embracing each other in a balanced manner. Amidst the surging and gushing power, it drew the response of the most minute part of his body. The cold light flickered and the dark flames danced. Lu Cheng finally grasped the signs in the perfect reflection of his soul. He grasped the minute details that made up every cell and every bone and blood in his body. This is the root pulp. He opened his eyes, feeling even happier. Grasping the root pulp meant that he was beginning to reach the inhuman realm. This was not a sufficient condition for a breakthrough, but a necessary condition. Since returning at the beginning of May, after nearly 2 months of training, his physical quality had reached the level of the top 6th pin. He originally thought that he would have to wait for a while for the next improvement. Who knew that after a night of dancing with fish and dragon, his mind was settled, his spirit was refreshed and his willpower was restored. Naturally his level increased again. There are still 6 months until the end of the year. I have a good chance of pushing that threshold. Lu Cheng thought happily. Then he put away his stance and hurried back, not wanting to waste a single second. The curtains were closed but the room was still dark. A strange but exciting smell filled the air. Lu Cheng saw that Yenjika was still asleep. He sucked on his fingers and the smile on his face grew wider. He felt more peaceful and happy. He quickly took off his clothes, took a quick shower and got into bed. He hugged his soft and fragrant fairy and slept with her until noon. When he woke up, Yenjika's eyelashes fluttered and she slowly opened her eyes. Then she enjoyed a warm wake-up kiss. Morning, no, good afternoon. Lu Cheng put his elbows on the bed and smiled in a low voice. Yenjika's eyebrows curved and she reached out her hands to hold his neck. She smiled sweetly. Good afternoon, my dear. She no longer felt embarrassed to call him that. Just as Lu Cheng was considering whether to eat first or do something, Yenjika pursed her lips and her eyes wavered. She gathered her courage and said, Cheng, I have something to tell you. The training plan of our school has to be brought forward 1 year. She didn't sound determined at all. Instead, she showed some confusion and uncertainty, as if she was asking for help and an answer. Chapter 425. Lu Cheng, whose mind was filled with sweetness and happiness, couldn't digest what Yenjika had just mentioned. He was momentarily at a loss. When he came to his senses and understood what was going on, he was instantly struck by a huge sense of loss and sadness. His heart felt as if it was tightly gripped by an invisible hand. A year in advance? That is to say, in 2 months at most, or at least 1 month, Ku will go to a foreign country? The two of them had just joined spiritually and were glued to each other like glue. Right now, Lu Cheng only wished that he could be with his little fairy every minute and every second of every day. Just the thought of her going to stay at her grandfather's house for a few days during the summer and being separated from him made him feel lost. Every day felt like a year, not to mention that they would suddenly be separated from each other for a few years. At this moment, Lu Cheng's emotions were surging and boiling. He almost blurted out that he should let Ku give up the opportunity and choose to stay so that she wouldn't die. But when he saw the confused and struggling look in her eyes, he suddenly restrained himself and thought of more. This wasn't something he didn't expect at all. He was even mentally prepared for it. It was just that it was suddenly brought forward by a year. This wasn't a reluctant attempt by Ku after they started dating. It was a dream and a plan that had been made long before they met. In March of last year, she had already discussed this matter with him and obtained his consent. She was born with a deficiency. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't enter the dance stage. Her life's dream had slowly shifted to this matter in the past 5 or 6 years. She came from a well-off family. Even if she didn't do anything in the future, she wouldn't have to worry about her quality of life. The reason why she wanted to study abroad wasn't because she wanted to get a diploma, but because she had such an opportunity. An opportunity to follow the world's top scholars, an opportunity to roam the ocean. The Ji family was very influential in China, but in another big country their reputation wasn't so good. Once this opportunity was missed, there might not be another one. When they first started dating, didn't Empress Dowager also make a request? 2 people need to sacrifice a certain amount to break in, but she didn't want to seek to sacrifice her dream for me. Yanjika opened her clear eyes and looked at Lu Cheng with inexplicable anxiety. She was swayed, distressed, and struggling because of his silence. If Cheng wants me to stay, what should I say? I will. After the crazy idea she had last night, she decided to try the illusory probability and leave everything to God. The girl felt that she had once again lowered her bottom line. Her heart was filled with sweetness and bitterness. Since ancient times, love was the most torturous. At this moment, Lu Cheng squeezed out a smile and tried to speak in a casual tone. A year earlier? That's pretty good. Doesn't that mean we can come back a year earlier? Previously, I was worried that I would only be able to fly over and spend a few days with you after you left in your 4th year. Now it's just right. My 3rd year is mainly to guide them and do my own preparation. There are very few competitions that I need to participate in. As for my studies, the dean has already told me that he will work hard to ensure that I graduate and successfully obtain a certificate. I will become the school's golden signboard. It doesn't matter how much I skip classes and take exams. Isn't it just a matter of getting a visa and traveling for more than 10 hours? Isn't it simple? Empress Dowager will probably stay with you for a while at first. After that, you can leave it to me. I will fly over once a month and stay for a week or 2. When you are on vacation, we can still go to the northern land to see the aurora. It's even more convenient. We can still travel to those special places. Yanjika stood there in a daze as she listened to his slightly long-winded and confused nagging. Her clear and beautiful eyes were gradually covered with tears. Also, my master has said that one needs to accumulate more knowledge and experience before reaching the physical invulnerability stage. Only then can one have a chance to leap over the dragon gate and soar into the sky. When I go over to accompany you, I can also experience the American martial arts. They are the center of the Western world and have different characteristics from our martial arts. They definitely have stronger aspects than us. Before Lu Cheng could finish his words, Yanjika suddenly propped herself up and hugged him tightly. She buried her face in his well-defined chest and said in a choked voice, "Cheng, I don't want to go. I don't want to leave you." Cheng? Her voice was like a reenactment of their first meeting. Lu Cheng's heart completely softened and almost melted. He took the opportunity to lie down and let the girl lie on his body. He reached out and stroked her hair that was slightly messy due to the sweat from last night. He smiled gently and said, "Silly girl, you really don't want to go?" The more sad and sentimental she was, the more she wouldn't cry. When Yanjika raised her head, she had already held back the throbbing of crying. Her pink lips moved a few times, but she couldn't give a definite answer. That master was very old. It was said that his health was getting worse year by year. If they missed this opportunity, not to mention whether he would still be alive, there would most likely be no more opportunities. Once such a situation occurred, the outstanding disciples he taught would definitely set up their own schools due to their differences in academic knowledge. There would no longer be such a holy land where so many top scholars gathered. Go. I hope you can become better and better with me instead of sacrificing yourself. On the other hand, I also have to work hard to become a better version of myself. I can't be left behind by you. Lu Cheng smiled softly while caressing her. But you're giving up too much. Yanjika bit her lower lip with her white and neat teeth. Her voice was still lingering with hesitation. Why did the role change? Why am I persuading Ku to study abroad? Lu Cheng smiled bitterly and answered seriously, 2 people are going to spend a lifetime together. How can we be entangled with who gives more and who gives less? Besides, you also have to give. Every time you have a holiday you have to come back and accompany me. Every day you have to insist on saying a few sweet words to me. When you encounter a problem or feel vulnerable, don't hide it from me. Tell me and I'll fly over immediately. After knowing that Yenjika was going to study abroad last year, he had been reading similar posts and summarizing other people's gains and losses. That was why he could say such words. Yes, yes. I promise, I swear. Yenjika breathed a sigh of relief as if she had finally found the answer. She stopped struggling and pursed her lips, nodded, and cutely raised 3 fingers. Lu Qing turned back and scratched her cute nose. He smiled slightly and said, "You see, I have the ability and free time to fly over to see you at any time. I can accompany you for a few days or even a dozen days or even every month. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. If the security there is not too good, I can also spend a lot of money to hire female dance stage seniors from Shushan Study or Ice God Sect to accompany you and protect you. And you can come back at least twice a year or even more. In this way the test of time and distance will be minimized. I read a book before. There's a very reasonable sentence in it. All the fear of a long-distance relationship is the hatred of one's own powerlessness." Speaking of this casually, he smiled and his eyes became firm. "Let me say something that may be a bit boastful. I've worked hard to improve my martial arts to reach my current level. Apart from my love for martial arts and my desire to compete with my idol, isn't the more important reason why I want to make the difficulties between us no longer be difficulties one day? Isn't it so that I can reduce the influence of various methods in the face of challenges and not be powerless? This is the true meaning of protection. If your girlfriend is abroad and you have money and time, but you are not willing to spend time to visit and maintain your relationship, no matter how well you say it, it's just to move yourself. That's all." Yenjika listened with drunken eyes. As soon as Lu Qing finished speaking, she crawled up, lowered her head and pressed her moist lips on Lu Qing's. Sticking out her tongue, they tangled intensely. Because she was not wearing underwear, her body was exposed when she moved. Lu Qing caught a glimpse of her from the corner of his eye. The beautiful scene of red and white was reflected in his mind and ignited his blood. As they kissed, Yenjika suddenly paused and hit Lu Qing shyly. "You pervert, when I'm so moved you can." She was too embarrassed to finish her sentence. Lu Qing could only laugh dryly and say, "I can't help it." Yenjika burst into laughter. Her previous haze was gone. She propped herself up slightly and looked at Lu Qing with her charming eyes. She suggested softly as if she had made up her mind. "Qing, let's get married." "Ah." Lu Qing was dumbfounded and confused. He asked back, "Are you proposing to me?" "Yes." Yenjika nodded like a chicken pecking rice. Lu Qing came to his senses and looked at Yenjika, who was serious. He asked again, "Really? This is not a joke. This is not a drill?" "Yes." Yenjika's eyes were gentle and her smile contained both determination and impulse. She counted with her fingers and said, "First, we are both 18 years old. We are adults and can get married. There is no such thing as late marriage and late childbirth in China. Second, our household registers are in school. Before the holidays we can borrow them," Yenjika said tirelessly. Her dimples deepened as if she was brewing a jar of wine. Lu Qing was drunk even before he drank. The girl took a breath and blushed. She looked at Lu Qing shyly but firmly. "Third, I'm not forcing you to do anything or wait for me. I'm just making a promise. I can protect myself until the end. I want to tell you that I've made up my mind. I'm willing, you're the only other half in my mind. I'm willing to marry you. I want to be your husband and wife. I'm willing too." Before Yenjika asked, the emotional Lu Qing said, "Then let's go back to school now and find an excuse to borrow our household register. Then go buy a ring. How can we not have a ring when we get married?" "Yes." Yenjika's eyes were covered with mist. She nodded briskly. "This has nothing to do with other things. It belongs to the two of us, Cheng and Ku's wedding. How can one not be impulsive and crazy in their youth?" Chapter 426. After eating the cake and desserts they bought last night, Lu Qing and Yenjika walked out of the hotel hand in hand and took a bus back to the old campus. They first bought a few sachets from the nearby stores, then slowly walked to the traffic point and returned to the new campus of Songqing University where they had lived for 4 whole semesters. When the scenery of Weishui Lake, the teaching building, the long bridge and the lakeside corridor came into view, Yenjika felt an inexplicable sadness in her heart. She leaned closer to her ex-boyfriend, who was now her husband. Lu Qing sensed Kuku's melancholy at the thought of parting. He wrapped his right arm around her shoulders and pulled her into his embrace. He comforted her with his actions and body temperature. In the quiet but not depressing atmosphere, the couple got off the bus and walked to the administration building with their hands clasped together. They returned the residence page to the management teacher before the end of the day. The excuse they used was the truth. Yenjika's participation in the joint training program had to be brought forward by a year, and the school had to help with various procedures. They didn't have time to get a visa to travel abroad, so they had to return the residence page in advance. As for the American visa that Lu Qing wanted, he didn't plan to get it himself. He planned to get it done through the Ice God sect, which was safer and more convenient. If there was something that required his cooperation, then he would ask. Otherwise, if a dangerous guy who was close to the inhuman stage entered the country, the inspection would be very strict. When everything was done, it was close to noon. They came to the school restaurant, opened the door of the reserved room, and saw Li Liantong, Shi Xiangyang and Zhong Yenru. Since the first time he treated them to a meal, Lu Qing and his ex-girlfriend's roommates often had chances to meet. For example, when they had a meal in the dormitory, if it was outside the school, they would ask him to be their bodyguard. If it was inside the school, once it was over, he would come to pick Yenjika up, take a walk and then go on a date. After winning the national championship, the couple was even asked to eat 3 times by them. Therefore they were not strangers to Lu Qing. At this time they all smiled and greeted him. "Hello, great martial artist." Lu Qing was used to being teased. He raised his hand and waved lightly in response. "Hello, comrades." The girls burst into laughter at the same time. After they had calmed down and sat down, they threw the menus to Lu Qing for him to choose. Then they turned to Yenjika and started talking about her study abroad. "Why so sudden?" Li Liantong maintained a dignified and quiet posture. "Cuckoo, if that's the case, how many years will you be gone for?" Zhong Yenru, who knew about this beforehand, asked with concern. "Woo, I can't bear to part with my fragrant, fair and soft big cuckoo. Although I already have a boyfriend, I still love you the most." The tall and slender Shi Xiangyang, whose eyes were slightly out of focus, said half jokingly and half sadly. She was the second one in Yenjika's dormitory to be single. She claimed that she couldn't take it anymore after being fed dog food for 2 semesters. Following Shi Xiangyang's words, the atmosphere suddenly became gloomy. The sensitive and delicate girls recalled the bits and pieces they had spent together in the past 2 years, and their eyes reddened a little. Yenjika forced a smile and said, "A year early is good. This means that I can come back a year early. At that time, Dirty Tong and Cabbage might still be studying and haven't graduated." Li Liantong and Shi Xiangyang had 7 years of clinical experience. They still had a long way to go. "Maybe you already have a child and we haven't graduated yet." Ever since she became familiar with Lu Qing, Li Liantong's pretense had decreased, and she could say such shocking words from time to time. After joking for a while, she suddenly sighed and said, "What should I do? I feel like I've fallen out of love. I can't see Cuckoo, who always blushes because of my teasing. I can't observe how you fall in love to gain experience. I can't. As she spoke, her voice gradually became softer and she actually choked with sobs. This immediately made Zhong Yenru and Shi Xiangyang's eyes moisten, and they said similar words. The atmosphere became more and more sad, and Lu Qing also felt a little uncomfortable. No matter how good and confident he had said before, he panicked when he was concerned. How could he not have some feelings for the departure that was coming in a month's time? However, he concealed it very well and his attitude was very proper. He didn't want to affect his little fairy's mood because of this. He exhaled, stood up and said, "I'll go out in order and also use the washroom." This kind of scene was really not suitable for the waiter to come in and order. "Okay." Yenjika held back her emotions and nodded. After Lu Qing went out, Li Liantong picked up a tissue and wiped the corners of her eyes. She decided to change the topic and liven up the atmosphere. She curled her lips, looked at Yenjika and squeezed out her signature smile. "Cuckoo, I remember you packed up and left 2 days ago. Ruru also said that I should have informed you on the day the exam ended." "So?" Zhong Yenru asked blankly. Without waiting for Yenjika to speak, Li Liantong chuckled and said, "You left 2 days ago. Why did you suddenly come back to the school to treat us to a meal? You were nearby these 2 days, right? What did you do?" When a couple is about to separate, they can't help but break through their previous boundaries. "Why are your thoughts so dirty?" Yenjika's sadness dissipated and shyness welled up. She habitually interrupted Li Liantong, wanting to change the topic. "Don't explain. Any explanation is a cover-up. If you don't believe me, you can ask Cabbage and Ruru. They definitely don't believe that you can still control yourself at this time. Li Liantong pointed at Shi Xiangyang and Zhong Yanru, who had a look of realization. Seeing Yanjika's shyness, she blinked her eyes and lowered her voice. I don't want to ask about your specific progress. I'm just curious. You know, girls tend to have more imagination than guys when they write about pure love. There are always some weird positions, no diverging. I've seen many stories about powerful martial artists. They deduced the application of their various abilities at that time and broke through the sky. I just want to ask you, is it like this, for example? Don't ask. After Yanjika understood, she immediately interrupted Dirty Tong's words. Her pretty face became as bright as the sun, and she was so beautiful that it was out of this world. Images flashed in her mind and she felt her cheeks heat up. Seeing this, Li Liantong laughed out loud. See, I wasn't wrong, right? If Ku and the rest didn't do anything, they wouldn't have said, don't ask, just now. Instead, they would have said, how would I know? Sai, our favorite Cabbage has really been taken by that guy outside. You tricked me? Yanjika blurted out. She was at a loss and embarrassed. I actually got tricked by Dirty Tong and admitted it myself. It's mainly because you have a guilty conscience. Li Liantong covered her mouth and laughed. After coming back to their senses and understanding the situation, Shi Xiangyang and Zhong Yanru couldn't help but laugh. They either leaned on the table or lowered their heads, laughing heartily. Infected by them, Yanjika gradually started laughing as well. She felt that she really wasn't cut out for doing bad things, unless Qing brought her along and helped to cover it up. At this moment, Lu Qing came back from the washroom. He pushed the door open and said in surprise, "What are you guys laughing about?" Shi Xiangyang, Zhong Yanru and the rest looked at each other. Recalling Li Liantong's example, they laughed even harder and almost slammed the table and chairs. Yanjika was also embarrassed and amused. She couldn't say anything. Lu Qing looked at them blankly and felt that he really couldn't understand. These four girls were so sad and sorrowful just a moment ago. Why are they smiling so brightly and happily in the blink of an eye? Girls are so complicated. The meal was sometimes sad and sometimes cheerful. However, all banquets must come to an end. Amidst the mess of cups and plates, Lu Qing called the waiter and paid the bill with his phone. After leaving the restaurant, they stood at the door. Zhong Yanru teared up again and said, "Ku, take care of yourself over there. Remember to come and play with us when you come back during the holidays." Okay. Yanjika tried her best not to cry and simply nodded in response. Just as Shi Xiangyang was about to speak, she suddenly lost her voice. After taking a deep breath, she said, "Ku, keep in touch when you're free. Now is the age of the internet. Everyone can still chat frequently. You and your Qing have to be good. We're waiting for you to get married and give us red packets." "That's right. I have high hopes for you guys. You'll definitely make it to your wedding day." Li Liantong imitated Yanjika's light-hearted tone. However, the redness at the corner of her eyes and the mist in her eyes had already deeply betrayed her. After a moment of sadness, Lu Qing and Yanjika bade farewell to them. They looked at each other and held hands again. If Dirty Tong and the others know that they can give us red packets now, they'll definitely be shocked. Yanjika smiled with complicated emotions. More than that, it's inevitable that there will be a floor full of glass shards. Lu Qing sighed and smiled faintly. After that, the newly married couple remeasured the many places they had left behind memories with their footsteps. From the lakeside where the grass was long and the birds were flying, to the desolate and vast western district, from the long bridge where they often met to the teaching building where they had lessons every day. In the next 2.5 days they rarely went out. Other than eating and practicing martial arts, they stayed in the hotel room. There were even 2 times when they directly ordered takeout. One of them had abnormal physical strength and was full of vigor, while the other was bursting with emotions and was indulging in youthfulness and passion to their heart's content. They couldn't wait to become conjoined twins. On Monday, June 30th, Yanjika received the materials sent by Yan Kai and Ji Mingyu. She handed them over to the school office and embarked on the journey back to Xioshan with Lu Qing. When there was a need here, she would come back to cooperate. However, at that time, it would most likely be Empress Dowager instead of Lu Qing who would accompany her. June 30th, 5:40 p.m. The high-speed train was speeding and was about to arrive at Xioshan Station. Lu Qing didn't play with his phone. He tilted his head and looked at the exhausted fairy who was sleeping. Thinking of the crazy days these days, his heart was full of tenderness and sweetness. He felt that his wife was so beautiful and he liked her so much. At first, he put his arm around Yanjika's shoulder. Then he felt that it wasn't enough, so he slid down to hold her slender waist. Then he felt that it wasn't enough, so he leaned over and held her completely in his arms, breathing in her fragrance. After a while, Yenjika woke up from her sleep with trembling eyelashes. She looked up and saw Lu Cheng's familiar face. The loss caused by the nightmare immediately disappeared. She reached out and hugged her husband's waist. After hugging quietly for a while, their phones rang at the same time. It was from each other's mother. "Hello, Mom. What's up?" Lu Cheng answered the phone in surprise and lowered his voice. Yenjika beside him also spoke in a similar tone. Qifeng nagged, "You're coming back soon, right? We were going to eat at home tonight, but your grandpa asked us to come over. He said that Ertzi wanted to treat us. He heard that you're back, so he insisted on treating us." Chapter 427. Seriously, they didn't even know to postpone it for a day. "I'm already drooling over your home-cooked dishes." Lu Qing flattered. Qifeng smiled proudly. "Isn't that right? I've already bought the groceries. Let's talk about it when you get home. We'll go there when both of you are back." Okay. Lu Qing hung up the phone and turned to look at his little wife, no, his leader. He smiled and said, "It's my mom. What a coincidence." "Me too." Yenjika smiled and shook the phone. "Empress Dowager and my dad are at the square in front of the station." Lu Qing thought for a while and said with a smile, "Now I don't have to avoid them and can send you out directly. Do you think I should call you Mom and Dad?" Yenjika opened her mouth and pursed her lips. She glanced at Lu Qing and said, "I don't care if you have the nerve to call me that." While they were flirting, the train stopped at the station. Lu Qing stood up and took Yenjika's suitcase down with one hand as if it was a child's toy. Carrying the luggage, dragging the suitcase and pulling his wife, Lu Qing walked out of the train in high spirits and entered the arrival hall. When they were about to go out, they saw the sun outside, the bright sky and the steaming heat. He and Yenjika looked at each other subconsciously and sighed suddenly in their hearts. These dreamy, beautiful and crazy days were over. Scenes flashed through their minds one after another, and the two of them fell silent. However, they pulled each other even tighter and leaned closer together. Out of the hall and turning around the road, Lu Cheng's eyes suddenly opened up. The square was dyed golden red in the last brilliance of the setting sun. The elegant Yan Kai and the mature and beautiful Ji Mingyu were waiting a few steps away. They were holding hands and holding umbrellas. "Your parents have such a good relationship." Lu Cheng broke the silence and praised from the bottom of his heart. They had been together for more than 20 years. Yenjika raised her head proudly and said with a smile, "Young man, work hard. They are your role model and goal. All goals are meant to be surpassed." Lu Qing chuckled. While talking, the two of them had already approached Yan Kai, who had a slightly complicated look in his eyes, and Ji Mingyu, who was smiling. Lu Qing somewhat guiltily called out, "Uncle, Auntie? Dad, Mom?" Yenjika didn't let go of Lu Cheng's hand and just called them like a spoiled child. Just as Ji Mingyu was about to speak, she glanced at her daughter and her heart skipped a beat. Although Ku's expression hid her tiredness, her entire person was delicate and radiant. Even as her mother, she had a strong sense of amazement. She thought about how her daughter was going to leave the country soon and was about to leave her boyfriend. As someone who had been there before, she understood. However, she didn't blame Lu Cheng. After he entered the dance stage and won the youth tournament in one fell swoop, she felt that the two little guys would steal the forbidden fruit at any time. Because of this, she even reminded her daughter to pay attention to safety measures. She didn't expect that this kid could hold back until recently. Then she remembered that her daughter didn't give up her dream because of this and obviously got support and understanding from her boyfriend. Ji Mingyu looked at Lu Qing more highly and was more satisfied with him. "Now that you have a boyfriend, you don't want to be close to your mother anymore?" She looked at her daughter and joked, lifting her left arm. Yenjika's pretty face blushed. She let go of Lu Cheng's hand and took half a step forward, intimately hugging Empress Dowager's arm. She said in a sweet voice, "No." Because of the private engagement, she felt a little guilty toward her parents. Ji Mingyu turned to Lu Cheng and said with a warm smile, "Little Lu, where's your house? Let's go together. We'll send you back on the way. It's troublesome to take a taxi." "Okay, thank you, Auntie." Lu Cheng didn't reject the olive branch from his mother-in-law at all. After saying that, he quietly mouthed to Yenjika, indicating that what he wanted to say was actually, "Thank you, Mom." Yenjika wrinkled her nose and gave him a coquettish stare. The Yen family's car was parked outside the square in front of the station. Along the way, Ji Mingyu and Yenjika walked in the center with umbrellas. Yan Kai and Lu Qing accompanied them, listening to the mother and daughter chat and occasionally adding a few words. After putting down their luggage and getting on the SUV, Lu Qing and Yan Zhika sat in the back and clasped their hands together again. After the car started, Yan Kai looked back at his daughter and said with a smile, "Ko, your grandparents want you to live in Jingkai County for a while to accompany them. They're afraid that after you go abroad, they won't be able to see you again." "How can that be? I always come back during the long holidays. It's almost the same as now." Yan Zhika subconsciously defended herself. "Your grandparents mean that it's not convenient for them to make phone calls." Yan Kai smiled gently. Yan Zhika looked up and said, "Then they can video chat online. They can see me directly. Well, this time I have to teach them how to do it." Listening to their conversation, Lu Qing was a little disappointed. Ku was going to stay at her grandparents' house for a few days. Didn't that mean that he would be separated from her for a while? Their time together before going abroad would be reduced a lot. At this time, Yan Zhika turned to look at him. Her face was flushed, but she said firmly, "Dad, didn't my grandparents say that they want to see Qing? I'll go with him then." Ji Mingyu, who was driving, couldn't help but laugh. She was both disdainful and proud. She didn't know whether it was a good thing or a bad thing to have a daughter who looked like her. Yan Kai was silent for a while and then said with a complicated smile, "Okay." Lu Qing was pleasantly surprised and his disappointment disappeared. He couldn't help but pull his little fairy's hand towards him. They looked at each other and smiled. Yan Kai asked, "When are you going?" "A few more days. I have to go to Cheng's house." Yan Zhika's eyes were dizzy, and her voice was getting lower and lower. An ugly daughter-in-law has to meet her parents-in-law, and she's already a legal daughter-in-law. Although Yan Kai was mentally prepared, he still felt inexplicably melancholy. He always felt that his daughter was not grown up yet. How could she be abducted? How could she be at the stage of meeting her parents-in-law? Then you have to prepare well. I didn't know these things back then and no one taught me. I almost made a fool of myself the first time I came here. Ji Mingyu recalled and said, angrily. Yan Kai thought for a while and said, "Say hello to Lu's parents for me." In Xioshan, unless it was a blind date, in-laws were not allowed to meet when the younger generation was meeting their parents. Only when the young couple had a stable relationship and were ready to talk about marriage would they have a few special gatherings to finalize details such as the date. "Thank you, Uncle Yan." Lu Qing hurriedly returned the greeting on behalf of his parents. Not long after, Ji Mingyu parked the car across the road according to his instructions. Waving goodbye to his real wife, mother-in-law and father-in-law, Lu Qing stepped into the familiar yet strange neighborhood. The general environment and layout of the buildings here had not changed. More than 10 years felt like a day, as if it had been sealed in time. Most of the pedestrians were the same, but there were more mottled faces, more white hair and more recently born faces. The renovation of the new house had been completed at the end of April, but it would be open for a while. According to Chi Fong, they would choose a date to move in October. Along the way, Lu Qing was greeted by people. Some people treated him as someone else's child and scolded the teenager beside them, which made him laugh secretly. He walked briskly up the stairs, took out the key and opened the door. Before he entered, he saw his mother coming over with a smile. "You're fast. Uncle Yin sent me back," Lu Qing answered frankly. He glanced at the living room and asked, "Where's Dad?" Chi Fong replied unhappily. Since he became the factory director, he has been busier than before. He said that he has to live up to the trust of others. He's not home until 6:30 every day. Don't mention your dad. Then she smiled and said, "When is Zhika coming? Your mother has to be prepared in advance." Her daughter-in-law was coming, so she took the initiative to change Yan Zhika to Zhika. "Zhika is fine these days. It's up to you." Lu Qing struck while the iron was hot. "How about tomorrow?" No, I don't know if she'll like the food I prepared for you. I have to do a big cleaning and tidy up the house. I can't see her in such a mess," Chi Fong said to herself. "Also, I have to call your aunt and ask her to send some vegetables from her farm. Zhika comes from a good family and must be tired of expensive food. She has to try something new." Listening to his mother's nagging and feeling how much she valued her daughter-in-law, Lu Qing felt warm and couldn't help but laugh. "What are you laughing at?" Chi Fong took out her phone and didn't have time to make the call. "I'm happy for Zhika," Lu Qing replied humorously. Chi Fong smiled. "I've asked around. Zhika is a good girl. She's gentle and pretty. She was much better than you when we were in number 1 middle school. Didn't you always say good things about her in my ear?" At the mention of number 1 middle school, she suddenly sighed. Ching, when you were in high school, I was worried that you wouldn't be able to find a girlfriend. I wasn't a boring and introverted person in high school. Was I that bad? Lu Qing didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He didn't know what to say. Double critical damage from his own mother. After Qi Fang contacted Qi Yan and set the date for the day after tomorrow, Lu Qing took out his phone and sent a message to Yan Zhika, whose name had been changed to Madam Wife. My mom said the day after tomorrow. She values you so much that she even asked me what you like to eat. She wants to go to the market to buy it again. She even asked my aunt to send the vegetables that she planted at home over. She also wants to do a big cleaning and do your hair. For the sake of family harmony, he didn't hesitate to praise his mother and daughter-in-law in front of them. Yan Zhika replied with a blushing expression, Auntie is so nice. You have to call her mom. Snickering expression, Lu Qing replied. Go away, I don't have a husband like you. Yan Zhika sent an expression of blowing a whistle for a red card, followed by an expression of lowering her head and smiling shyly. I'm still not used to calling you that. My face was burning from typing just now. It's so embarrassing. But it's not the first time you've called me that these days. Raising eyebrows expression, Lu Qing replied. That's when I'm in a daze. After sending this message, Yan Zhika suddenly came to her senses. Her face was as red as a tomato and she replied bitterly, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. After a while, Lu Jisheng called and asked Qi Fang and Lu Qing to go downstairs directly. He said that Erzi would drive to pick them up. Not bad. Qi Fang said and pulled her son out of the house. They went downstairs and arrived at the entrance of the community. Erzi drove a big Benz this time. He was smoking and chatting with Lu Cheng's father, Lu Jisheng. When he saw Lu Cheng, he immediately put on a smile and greeted him. Cheng, I finally meet you. You're the pride of our Lu family. The sky was getting dark. Lu Cheng glanced at him and found that he did look a little like his cousin Lu Yanwei. He smiled modestly and said, You're too kind, Brother Erzi. You're also awesome. Why did he call him Brother Erzi? Because I still don't know what his real name is. Chapter 428. Haha, I'm just earning hard money. Well, let's get in the car. Mr. and Mrs. C are almost done. We can't keep them waiting for too long. Seeing Lu Cheng, Erzi put out the remaining half of the cigarette in his hand without hesitation, which made Lu Jisheng, who was smoking, stunned for a dozen seconds. Lu Cheng smiled and shook his head. If you're earning hard money, then I'm earning hard money too. Money that could be earned through sweat and blood. Lu Jisheng also put out the cigarette in his hand and threw it in the trash can. He and Qi Fang sat in the back of the Benz. After Lu Cheng fastened his seat belt, Erzi started the car and drove to Lu Debang's house. He said with a smile, I watched your national competition from the beginning to the end. You're awesome. Every man dreams of becoming a master, and you're already a master. On the way, he didn't talk about anything else but martial arts. Occasionally, he would praise Lu Cheng in front of Lu Cheng's parents, making the atmosphere relaxed and harmonious. He must have been in the business for many years. Lu Cheng commented in his mind, but he pretended to be polite. Arriving at his grandfather's house, Lu Cheng had just finished greeting everyone when his cousin Ma Shi dragged him into the room. Her eyes sparkled as she pointed at a pile of posters and notebooks. Brother, you promised me that you would sign for my classmates. She said with pride and admiration. At least half of our classmates idolize you. Since I said I'm your idol, I'll sign them even if I have to kneel down. Lu Cheng laughed self-deprecatingly. He took a photo of the pile of posters and notebooks and sent it to his wife. He used an emoji with his head hanging from a beam to express his woes. The troubles of becoming famous. Look at your calligraphy. Yan Zhika put her hands on her hips and looked at the sky proudly. Seeing her cousin's smiling expression, Ma Shi asked curiously, Sister-in-law? Everyone who watched the final competition was impressed by the hug between Lu Cheng and Yan Zhika. Yeah, it's a blow to me. Lu Cheng shook his head with a smile. He took the pen and began to write his name. His wrist was steady and his strength was moderate. The more he wrote, the worse it got. All right. Finally, he exhaled and ended the activity that destroyed his confidence in calligraphy. Of course, if he wrote the words Qian or Xing, he would still be able to meet people with the help of visualization. Thank you, second brother. You're so nice. Ma Shi happily organized the posters and notebooks. By the time the brother and sister left the room, the two tables had been put together. Plates and basins of cooked dishes were brought out one by one. The aroma of the dishes lingered in the air. It was different from before. This is the game I got from Uncle Yu in the village. Try it, it's really good. Erzi introduced them to Lu Cheng with a smile and praised Lu Jiqiang. It's all thanks to second uncle's excellent craftsmanship. Most people wouldn't be able to handle these. Lu Jiqiang smiled smugly and said, "These wild animals are just like that. Back when I was a cook in the army," he kept bragging about the past, completely not noticing that Erzi's face had darkened a bit. These wild animals were just SOSO. Lu Cheng wanted to laugh when he heard their conversation. He secretly sighed that his second father was indeed a man who offended others the moment he opened his mouth. When he sat down and tasted a few pieces of different game, his mind suddenly became active. "It's really good. I should let Ke try it too. Well, I was worried about what to bring to Ke's grandfather's house. Uncle Yu in the village should be the uncle who told me to go to him if I want to eat wild animals. I'm his son's savior." While thinking, he didn't feel ashamed to ask about the dishes he thought were good, and he firmly remembered Erzi's answer. This meal made Lu Debong very happy. He made an exception and drank more than usual. After praising Lu Cheng, he reminded Lu Yanwei to work hard under Erzi and live up to the expectations of his relatives. At this time, Lu Cheng noticed that his cousin Lu Yanwei was dressed like a dog, so he asked with concern, "Brother, what are you doing with brother Erzi now?" The day Qifang mentioned this, he wanted to ask his cousin, but he didn't expect that Yan Zhika would go abroad a year early. He didn't have time to care about it. Before Lu Yanwei had time to answer, Erzi said with a smile, "You've won the nationals and become the heavenly son of the era. The entire Xioshan city is proud of you, and the martial arts atmosphere is flourishing. In addition, the team formed by your city performed well this time and almost made it to the second stage. You already have a lot of supporters. Therefore, your city plans to build a new martial arts arena and form a comprehensive business district that integrates health, fitness, leisure, and entertainment. I'm new here, so I don't have a big appetite. I only want to eat one piece, but I'm not familiar with this place, so I asked Yanwei to help me." Then he looked at Lu Debong and said, "Fourth grandpa, don't worry. Yanwei has done a good job these days." Lu Cheng listened to them thoughtfully and didn't express any opinion. Instead, the elders all exclaimed that he had become a household name in Xioshan and directly led a trend that changed the city's planning. Star? Erzi laughed secretly and shook his head slightly. Fourth grandpa's family had little contact with the martial arts circle, so they didn't have any practical experience. They only knew that Cheng was a great man, but they didn't know how great he was or what it meant in the real world. They just thought he was like a star. But in fact, in his eyes, as half an insider in the martial arts circle, Cheng should be a powerful man, famous and powerful in the future. He didn't talk about this but changed the topic and talked about the family affairs in Qingfu County. The lively dinner was coming to an end. At this time, Lu Yanwei, whose face was getting rounder, winked at Lu Cheng, indicating that he had something to say to him. "I'll take the fruit out of the fridge." Lu Yanwei stood up and walked to the kitchen, which made his mother, Wang Lily, want to wipe her tears. She sighed that her son had finally matured. Lu Cheng went to the kitchen with an excuse to go to the bathroom. He saw Lu Yanwei holding his phone and chatting with someone with a smile on his face. I have a girlfriend," he said to his cousin, a little embarrassed. "Ah, brother, when did you have a girlfriend?" Lu Cheng was shocked. Didn't his cousin go on several blind dates without success? Just right. Lu Yanwei smiled so widely that his eyebrows couldn't be seen. "We met before playing games. But at that time I failed to start a business several times. I didn't have any confidence and didn't dare to pursue her. Recently, I ran some business with brother Erzi and got back some confidence and some money." As he spoke, his voice grew softer and softer. Suddenly, he exhaled and said hesitantly, "Cheng, I feel like I'm in a dream right now. What if brother Erzi doesn't succeed in his business or I accidentally offend him? Wouldn't I be back to square one?" From his face, Lu Cheng could see that he was worried about personal gains and losses. After thinking about it, he recalled Ke's occasional words and combined them with his own experience and opinion. "Brother, you don't have to worry so much. What's important is what you can learn from this. You see, in business you need money, connections and foresight. If you follow brother Erzi, you'll definitely meet a lot of business people. You'll build up your own connections if you deal with them well. Then you'll gain experience and foresight from this project. Even if it doesn't succeed in the future or they turn against you, you'll become a better Lu Yanwei and can find a way out." Lu Yanwei listened attentively. His expression gradually relaxed as if he had untied a lot of his worries. After a moment of silence, he said self-deprecatingly, Cheng, why do I feel that you're more mature than me? It's as if you're my brother. I almost called you brother just now. Lu Qing pointed at himself and laughed. Call me brother. Come on. You're so rude. Lu Yanwei's smile brightened. He took out fruits from the fridge and cut them into plates and rinsed them. After dinner, Erzi said that they had finally gathered everyone and proposed to take a family photo. He would find a place to print it digitally. Lu Qing didn't care. He stood beside his grandfather and completed the photo. After taking the family photo, Erzi took the initiative to ask Lu Qing to take a picture with the heavenly son of the age. Lu Qing wouldn't refuse such a small thing. Learning from his little fairy, he stepped back and faced the camera with a smile. After chatting for a long time and sending the Lu family back home, Erzi drove to Qingfu County via the highway. He entered his own company and turned on the computer to print the photos. After carefully looking at the family photo and the one with Lu Qing for a while, the smile on his face grew wider. He turned over 2 photo frames, put them in and placed them on the boss's desk facing the guests. Just then his phone rang. A call came in. Hello brother He. Why are you calling me so late? I'm in the company. Come over and we can talk face to face. Okay, I'll wait for you. Putting down his phone, the corners of Erzi's mouth curled up. His gaze passed through the window and looked at the lights below. After almost half an hour, the sound of footsteps could be heard. A 30-year-old man in a suit pushed open the door to Erzi's office. He saw Erzi sitting behind the desk, holding a pen in both hands and slowly turning it. Boss Lu, you're in a good mood. The man in the suit smiled reservedly. Just then, his eyes swept over the 2 photo frames on the table and saw the 2 photos. Boss Lu, you don't show your true colors. The man in the suit was stunned at first, then his smile turned into a bright one. Erzi Lu Yuanzhang's smile became more obvious. In the Lu family, after Lu Jisheng went to take a shower, Lu Cheng and Qi Fang talked about Yanjika's favorite dishes. In the midst of their idle chatter, he suddenly remembered something and interrupted them. Mom, do you know Erzi's name? You haven't mentioned it to me. I didn't think about asking before. Qi Fang was stunned for a moment and answered, Lu Yuan, what's Lu Yuan again? So I don't remember clearly. Speaking of this, the mother and son looked at each other and smiled, throwing this matter to the back of their minds. Who cares what his name is? Chapter 429. Qi Fang returned to the topic at hand. She asked curiously and nervously, What's the matter with Erzi? Cheng, how much did Jika's family give you when you visited them? I have to go to the bank tomorrow to withdraw money for this. Lu Qing smiled and said, 10,001 yuan. The meeting with his parents-in-law was informal, so he didn't have the necessary etiquette. He didn't receive a big red packet until he went to Jiangnan and finished his walk. With Senior Ji, no, he should call him Grandpa. In fact, to the Ji family and the Yen family, a red packet of 10,001 yuan was nothing at all. However, considering the Lu family situation and the fact that Lu Qing was still in school, they decided on this number. It was more symbolic than practical. 10,001. That's good. Qi Fang breathed a sigh of relief and smiled again. If it had been 2 months ago, she might have had a headache over the issue of red packets since she had spent all her savings on buying a house and renovating a house. However, things had come to an end. Lu Jisheng had been promoted and received incentive shares and corresponding bonuses. Their family's financial situation had improved, and they could still afford 10,000 yuan. As for the couple getting married, it was still too early, at least 3 years away. By then they would be well off. Lu Qing felt his mother relax and couldn't help but smile. Mom, you don't have to go to the bank tomorrow. I have almost 10,001 yuan in cash. You just need to get some. For your wife. Qi Fang was about to say something wrong. She laughed and said, It's a red packet for your girlfriend. How can I spend your money? But isn't it natural for me to give money to my parents? Lu Qing said gently. Mom, you're right. You're my wife and you have a certificate. No, this is a gift from your dad and me. Qi Fang waved her hand and refused. Our family is doing well these days. Keep the cash for yourself. Don't let her suffer. Okay. Lu Qing didn't insist. After all, he would find a chance to give more money to his mom in 2 days. At this time, Lu Jisheng came out of the shower. With the TV program as the background, the family of 3 talked a lot about Yanjika's visit to her in-laws. In the end, Qi Fang clapped her hands and decided to take her husband to buy some nice clothes after the cleaning tomorrow, so as not to embarrass her son. The moon was bright and the stars were sparse. The night was getting darker. Lu Qing finished showering and lay on the bed. He shared the contents of their discussion with Yenjika in the form of interesting news. He played the role of a mole perfectly. After talking about this matter, he felt the desolation and silence around him. He sighed with a smile and typed on the keyboard. "The night is long, I can't sleep alone." Yenjika quickly replied with a snickering emoji, "Unfortunately, I have Empress Dowager to accompany me." Mother and daughter talk at night. "I don't know what it means to be alone and unable to sleep." After that, she sent a message, "Do you think I will sympathize with you?" I almost laughed out loud, expression. Following that, she added, all right, big sister will dote on you tomorrow. Be good and go to sleep." Sensing the subtle fluctuations and changes in his wife's emotions, Lu Qing smiled and asked, "How does it hurt?" "How else can it hurt? In broad daylight, in front of so many people, how do you want it to hurt?" Yenjika said with an emoji of slamming the table. "I just want you to have breakfast with me. What are you thinking about? Your thoughts are a little dirty recently." Lu Qing replied with an emoji of a sinister smile. Yenjika's face was flushed. She gritted her teeth and sent an emoji of knocking on the head. "It's all because you are too dirty. That's why I'm thinking dirty. It's all your fault. Quick, say, I'm wrong." Yes, Kochien, I'm wrong." Lu Qing typed with a smile and inexplicably missed her. Seeing his reply, Yenjika was silent for more than 10 seconds. "Qing, what?" Lu Qing asked in confusion. "I miss you a little?" Yenjika held her phone and lay on her side. Her eyes softened. Although they had only been apart for a little more than 4 hours. "Me too." Seeing this, Lu Qing's emotions calmed down. His heart was peaceful, just like the scenery outside the window covered with a veil of moonlight. Compared to the burning passion, this was the beauty on the other side of love. The next morning, Lu Qing got up early and quickly washed up. He put on the navy blue Longhu Club martial arts suit and ran to the villa community by Backwater Lake to warm up before the training. At the entrance of the community, he sent a message. Not long after, he saw Yenjika running out quickly. The girl's black hair was tied up and she was wearing plain white. She was pretty and elegant. "What a coincidence," Lu Qing said with a smile. Ku was wearing the female version of the Longhu Club martial arts suit, which happened to be a matching outfit with his. And they didn't tell each other beforehand. What a coincidence. Yenjika showed her dimples and smiled sweetly. Girls always liked coincidences like this. It made them feel as if their hearts were connected. Without saying anything, the couple looked at each other deeply and ran to Backwater Lake with a smile. In summer, the sun rose early, so people started their morning exercises earlier. Lu Qing and Yenjika changed their usual places 3 times before they found a relatively secluded training spot. After a tender kiss, the two of them separated. Lu Qing got into a stance and started to move his joints. Crackling sounds came from his body. After this, he couldn't help but turn his head to look at his wife. He saw Yenjika's face was red and she was ready to practice still stance. "Practice your martial arts." "What are you looking at?" Sensing Lu Qing's gaze, the girl pouted playfully. Her eyes were clear and seductive. "I'm looking at the motivation for practicing martial arts." Lu Qing replied with a smile, training harder and harder. Just like that, they focused on each other and occasionally looked at each other. They felt that time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, it was the end of the morning exercise. "Ku, what's your plan today?" Lu Qing asked with a smile while jogging to breakfast. Yenjika looked up and said, "I have to chat with Empress Dowager and my dad and cook with them." "Well, I'm just an assistant and have to buy a gift for your family. What about you?" "If you didn't have any plans, we would have fooled around together." Lu Qing laughed. "Fooled around your head?" Yenjika glared at him, annoyed and amused. "What kind of words are you using?" Lu Qing laughed and said, "Since you want to spend time with Empress Dowager and your father-in-law, I have to go home and help my mom with the cleaning." He wasn't familiar with his father-in-law and mother-in-law yet. It would be awkward to intrude and ruin the atmosphere and feelings. "After the cleaning, I'll go to the Gushin Martial Arts School's strength training gymnasium for another 2 hours to push the door of the Inhuman stage. Then I'll find Qin Rui and Fatty Jiang for a gathering." He described his plan. "Okay." Yenjika nodded like a chick pecking at rice. As they ran, the two of them slowed down their pace. They started to hold hands and then they started to walk faster. After eating the dumplings outside the No. 1 middle school and sending his little fairy to the entrance of the neighborhood, Lu Qing started his daily routine according to plan. It was past 1 o'clock in the afternoon. The scorching sun was high in the sky and there seemed to be heat waves rising from the ground. Lu Qing, Jiang Fei, and Qin Rui hid in a row under the shade of a tree and sat on the railing, leisurely looking at the gate of the number 1 middle school a few meters away, watching the youthful juniors walk in one by one. Qing, if you don't wear glasses, there will be a lot of people surrounding you. Fatty Jiang turned his head and looked at his best friend's plain glasses. Yeah, Qing is now a big celebrity in Xioshan. Our martial arts school doesn't need to say anything. As long as we mention that he used to be a part-time coach here, the number of applicants will explode instantly. Qin Rui echoed with a smile. After he succeeded in meditation, his strength improved rapidly. With the training of the preliminaries, he was almost at the level of 9th pin, almost catching up with Dai Linfeng. Lu Qing laughed and said, I worked hard to achieve this. You can't be jealous. By the way, why didn't old Qing come out? He usually takes a long time to reply when I chat with him on QQ. He hadn't seen Qing Chili for almost a year. It's the same if I talk to him. Alas, maybe he made a lot of new friends in college and was busy with other things, so he didn't have time to meet us old classmates. Jiang Fei sighed. I've always thought that my contact with the other students in class would indeed become less and less in the future. However, the friendship between the three of us should be able to last for a very, very long time. In the end, when old Qing thinks of us in the future, it will most likely be a red bomb. Believe it or not, I will send you one now. Lu Qing complained in his heart, feeling a little disappointed. Friendship was such a thing. Once one party was cold, they would quickly become passers-by. The other classmates here expressed their dissatisfaction. Qin Rui made a joke. I'm just giving an example. I'm just lamenting my relationship with old Qing. Jiang Fei pointed at the gate of the number 1 middle school and said, Qing, old Qing, and I would sit here from time to time, looking at the school gate to see if there were any beautiful girls to admire. We would enter when class was about to start. Once, we happened to see Yenjika, with her long hair fluttering in the wind. He stopped here and thought of the end of the goddess. He glanced at Lu Qing sadly and said, Forget it, let's not talk about it. It's really a sad story. Lu Qing laughed both physically and mentally. Qin Rui also laughed and said, I heard that there was a new teaching director recently. He forbade girls to keep long hair. Damn, what a pervert. Jiang Fei cursed excitedly. After joking about school affairs for a while, Qin Rui said smugly, Qing, how confident do you think I am to participate in the ranking event of professional 9th pin now? He had asked Lu Qing for advice in the morning. Settle down and train hard for 3 more months. You have a great chance to participate in the ranking event in October. Lu Qing didn't exaggerate or belittle. Qin Rui gripped the railing tightly and couldn't hide his smile. Jiang Fei sighed and said, I feel that you two are not from the same world as me. When I first entered school, I wanted to be a successful person in the future. After 2 years of school, my dream has plummeted. I just want to find a good job after graduation so that I don't have to live off my parents. After 2 more years, your dream will still plummet. Lu Qing said sarcastically, as long as you have a job. Maybe. No, I have to pull myself together. Jiang Fei seemed to be stimulated. He had once wanted to lose weight and exercise, but after a winter break he stopped. He only did it once a week. Sometimes he would even slack off, so his body remained the same and he still didn't have a girlfriend. While Jiang Fei was murmuring, Lu Cheng's phone rang and an incoming call came in. Hello, master? Seeing that it was Comrade Shi Jiangwo, he quickly answered the call. Brat, I'm getting your visa to America. Geezer Shi coughed and said, Are you busy today? Lu Qing was puzzled and answered, Nothing. Why did master ask this? Well, I have a small task for you. It'll take you half a day at most. Geezer Shi laughed. A small task? Lu Qing said to himself in surprise. Chapter 430. What's the matter? Lu Qing felt uneasy. His master was sometimes unreliable. Geezer Shi laughed and said, A disciple of the ice god sect named Li Zhenhua is in trouble in Linbian. You're the closest to him, so go and take care of him. Taking the high-speed rail to Linbian was indeed an hour and a half wasted time. Lu Qing nodded slightly and asked, Master, what's the trouble? It's a long story. You brat, you don't understand this old man at all. Geezer Shi laughed and scolded him. Write down her phone number and call her later. She'll tell you the whole thing XXXXX. Okay. Lu Qing repeated it twice and asked Jiang Fei to write it down. He asked, Master, I'm not working part-time in the sect. I should be paid for this kind of task, right? Hey, when did you become so greedy? Geezer sure smiled in surprise. Lu Qing smiled embarrassedly and said, Ku is going to study in America, so I need to save more money for the trip. As for using his own influence and connections to do business with others, he still couldn't cross the threshold in his heart for the time being. Not bad. You know how to save money for this. You're very responsible. I'm sure you'll be paid. Let's talk about it later. How can the sect treat you unfairly? Even if it's not for you, it's for me. At this point, Geezer sure was still worried and reminded him, when you arrive at the woodland, remember to give me a call if anything unexpected happens. Okay. Lu Qing didn't say more. After the call, he quickly dialed the number his master gave him. The cheerful ringtone rang for less than 3 seconds before the call was connected. A tired and anxious female voice said, Hello, who's this? I'm Lu Qing from the Ice God sect. Lu Qing's voice was low and concise. The female voice suddenly became excited. Hello, senior. I'm Li Zhenhua's girlfriend, Zhang Xiaozi. A senior? Lu Qing was stunned by the name. He didn't have time to correct her and asked directly, What happened to Li Zhenhua? It was his girlfriend who was answering the phone. They didn't tell you? Zhenhua, he's missing. Senior, this matter is rather complicated, so I can't explain it clearly. When you arrive, I'll tell you the details in person, Zhang Xiaozi said in an anxious tone. Sure enough, master is not very reliable. Lu Qing thought to himself. Since he had to go and take a look anyway, he nodded and said, Okay, I'll let you know when I book the tickets. Let's meet at the high-speed rail station. Okay, I'll wait for you, senior. Zhang Xiaozi was obviously relieved, as if she had found her backbone. Senpai, do I sound that old? He opened the app and booked the train to Linbian at 2:25 p.m., leaving the return trip aside for the time being. Fatty Jiang, send me to the high-speed rail station. I have something to deal with in the sect. Lu Qing had never been polite with Jiang Fei. Tisk, Qing, you're starting to look like a business elite. Jiang Fei had just finished watching a series about the workplace last night. Lu Qing was about to mock himself when he suddenly thought of something. Wait, Fatty Jiang, send me home first, then go to the high-speed rail station. Linbian was not part of the Qing province, but an important border area. Although it was still far from the national border, it was a land transportation hub with a large flow of people. The security there was not very good and could even be said to be a little chaotic. Even though he was in Xioshan, he could hear from time to time that there was a big case there. Plus, it was a multi-ethnic area, so the atmosphere was quite tough. Therefore, even if he did not intend to do it, he had to be prepared. As the car started moving, Lu Qing took out his phone and sent a message to Yanjika. Facepalm expression. Capable people do more work. My master sent me to Linbian to deal with a trouble caused by a junior disciple. I'm a martial uncle, and if something really happens to someone of my generation, it's not something I can solve. Yanjika replied very quickly with an emoji of a dumbfounded face. Okay, so sudden? Linbian is quite chaotic. Qing, you have to be careful. Change into your martial arts suit. No matter what happens, don't think about holding back. You're the most important. She said a lot in one go, and at the end she said, I'll wait for you to come back. With my dear wife's words, I'll definitely be able to return safely tonight. Lu Qing sent an excited emoji with a red scarf wrapped around its head. I'm just about to go home and change into my martial arts suit. When he reached home, he took out another set of navy blue Longhu Club martial arts suit and changed into the custom-made training shoes made for him by Wu Qinggui's company. He tightened his sleeves, took his phone and wallet and strode out of the door. 2:08 p.m. He was sent to the high-speed rail station by Jiang Fei. 2:15 p.m. Lu Qing passed the security check and boarded the high-speed rail. 2:25 p.m. The high-speed rail started on time, roaring towards the south. 3:52 p.m. The high-speed rail stopped at Linbian Station. Lu Qing sent a message to Yanjika and followed the line out of the carriage. 3:59 p.m. He walked out of the arrival hall in his navy blue suit and found the iconic white horse statue in the square in front of the station. This was the place where he and Zhang Xiaozi agreed to meet. Senior? A girl in her 20s with a hairstyle called out uncertainly. She was thin, wearing a short-sleeved shirt, shorts and jogging shoes. She could barely be considered pretty. Zhang Xiaozi? Lu Qing asked in reply. Yes. Your senior Lu Qing? Didn't you say you were going to meet a martial uncle? Zhang Xiaozi asked, half surprised and half confused. It was because of this that she called him senior directly. I know you're not a disciple of the Ice God sect, and you don't care much about the university martial arts competition or similar topics. Lu Qing thought and nodded steadily. I joined the sect late, so I'm senior. Before Zhang Xiaozi asked again, he looked at the taxi queue and adjusted the sleeves of his martial arts suit. Let's talk on the way. Don't waste time. She was missing, so he had to seize every minute and second. Yes, senior. Zhang Xiaozi quickened her pace and followed beside Lu Cheng. She quickly picked up the key points. Lingbian has a rich man called Si Jianting. He colluded with a warlord in the war-torn area in the south. He opened several underground casinos near the border and lured many people to play there until they lost their family fortune. Zhenhua's father was one of them. When he was 13 years old, he committed suicide in the casino, and his family was ruined. He came for revenge? Do you have evidence? Lu Qing didn't stop walking and asked directly. The sect generally didn't care about this kind of revenge that didn't have any reliable clues. Yes. Zhang Xiaozi quickened her pace to a trot. He watched Si Jianting for 2 or 3 years. This time he said he could get decisive evidence, so he rushed to Lingbian. Because he was afraid of an accident, he took me with him. He told me to immediately notify the sect if something was wrong. Then how did he go missing? Lu Qing slowed down his pace and wasn't so anxious to get close to the taxi queue. There were so many people, so who knew if the taxi driver knew the person over there? Zhang Xiaozi took a breath and said, Last night, Zhenhua said that he wanted to investigate Si Jianting's Lin Fu building at night and find those several decisive pieces of evidence. I watched him go in, but he didn't come out the entire night. I saw that something was wrong, so I immediately called the sect's senior brothers according to what he said. The sect first pressured the provincial police to come here and deal with it, but their local protectionism is particularly strong, so they didn't pay much attention. They searched once and found nothing. They looked at the surveillance video, but there was no scene of Zhenhua going in. I clearly saw him go in. I urged them again and again, but there was still no result. I could only report back to the sect and they let senior come. Although Lu Qing was much younger than she had expected in this kind of situation, she was grasping at the last straw. She didn't dare to change her attitude in the slightest. Lu Qing quickened his pace and said in a low voice, Let's go to the Linfu building to take a look first. You carefully recall if there are any important details missing. We'll talk about it after we get off the taxi. Yes, senior. Zhang Xiaozi walked breathlessly. At 4:21, the taxi stopped on the opposite side of the street from the Linfu building. Lu Qing, wearing a navy blue martial arts suit, pushed open the door and walked out. He looked at the 19-story building, which was generally short and old in the woods. This could be considered a landmark with a rather modern atmosphere. Si Jianting has been transforming and washing his name in the past few years, and has started to get involved in real estate. This is a joint development between him and several companies. Zhang Xiaozi introduced. She hadn't finished speaking when her eyes suddenly widened. She pointed to the opposite side and said, Si Jianting. Lu Qing looked up and saw an old man in his 50s with a rigid outline and an aquiline nose. He was surrounded by 7 or 8 bodyguards and subordinates as he walked out of the Linfu building's door. His eyes were sharp and cold. This was Si Jianting. In the taxi, Lu Qing had seen the photo Zhang Xiaozi had taken of him, but they hadn't talked about it. Compared to Si Jianting, Lu Qing was more concerned about the 2 bodyguards at his side. One had dark skin, and his facial features were very characteristic of the war-torn areas in the south. The other had muscles that supported his t-shirt. Every step he took was neither too long nor too short, just right as if measured with a ruler. They were all dance stage martial artists. As for their specific levels, it was very difficult to judge from their appearance. The 2 of them are very strong. Without them, Si Jianting wouldn't have survived until now. That dark-skinned one is called Wilson. He's a freelance killer in the war-torn areas. Later, he was seriously injured and was taken in by Si Jianting, becoming his confidant. At his peak, he was said to be close to level 6. That muscular guy is called Huang Qingda. His strength is a bit worse than Wilson's, but he's also a martial artist who's seen a lot of blood in the war-torn areas. Zhang Xiaozi repeated the information Li Zhenhua had collected. Senior, don't be careless. They're definitely hiding guns, the kind with large caliber. As she spoke, she impatiently said to herself, Where are they going? Oh. You ask the people in the police station here. Lu Qing calmly ordered. Okay. Zhang Xiaozi quickly took out her cell phone and asked a few questions. Her face suddenly became very bad. She turned her head and anxiously said to Lu Qing, Si Jianting wants to go to the south to discuss business. The people in the police station said they have no evidence or clues, so they can't stop him. Senior, he wants to run. Of course the south was the border. And if Xi Jinping ran, Li Zhenhua would most likely disappear forever. But there's no evidence. Lu Qing saw two black cars drive to the entrance of the building. He saw Wilson quickly run forward and open the back door of the second car. Huang Qingda protected Xi Jinping as they approached. He thought for a moment, dialed his master's number and briefly and comprehensively repeated the current situation. You decide for yourself. Geyser said with some schadenfreude. What's the bottom line? Lu Qing asked back. Geyser muttered to himself for a few seconds, coughed twice and said, Don't kill anyone. Chapter 431. Don't kill anyone? Lu Qing's mouth twitched and he silently hung up the phone. Then he observed the surrounding terrain and walked towards the exit of the Linfu building. Senior, they're about to get in the car. Zhang Xiaozi trotted after him, anxiously reminding him. Lu Qing didn't look at her and his left hand steadily pressed down, indicating that she shouldn't speak. At the same time he dialed another number, Yanjika's phone. After a short ringtone, the other side seemed to have been waiting, worried, and quickly connected. Hello, Ku, my master is unreliable. A small matter has become a big trouble. Lu Qing bitterly laughed. On the way here, he fully believed in his master, and treated the trouble in Linbian and Li Zhenhua's disappearance as urgent but not dangerous matters. Although he was prepared to take action, it was only in case and he didn't really know him, so he could still chat with Ku with a relaxed and cheerful attitude. Later, even though he had figured out the whole story from Zhang Xiaozi, he still felt that his task was more to find clues, pressure and urge the police to search again, and cooperate with them with the keen senses of the Dan stage. Even if he did take action, at most he would just be a supporting role, easy and relaxed. Until Xi Jinping showed signs of escaping, his master gave him the bottom line. Only then did he feel that this matter was more thorny and a little dangerous, and he had to explain it to his other half. This master who cheated his disciple. On the other side of the phone, Yanjika's heavy breathing was clearly heard through the radio. She was silent for a moment before she said, Can you not do it? Lu Qing smiled and said, It's related to the life and death of a martial nephew. Ku, don't worry, I won't take action without absolute certainty. To be blunt, I'm not his father, mother, or master, so I don't need to take any risks for him. These words made Zhang Xiaozi's face pale and she almost fell down. Taking action with absolute certainty, then wouldn't that be hopeless? Facing two powerful Dan stage martial artists and 5 or 6 armed bodyguards, plus Xi Jinping who was at the peak of 9th pin in his prime, he had to be at least an inhuman stage senior to have absolute certainty. That would be the upper class of a sect. Exactly, he's not a fairy. Yanjika slightly relaxed and added another sentence out of concern, You promise. I promise, Lu Qing promised in a deep voice. If Xi Jinping didn't get on the carriage and didn't let his subordinates split up, facing 2 level 7 Dan stage martial artists and several bodyguards armed with large caliber firearms, then although he had a grasp of the situation, it wasn't worthwhile for him to take the risk for a martial nephew he didn't know. After all, once he was entangled with the experts for a short period of time, the firepower would cross, and he wouldn't be able to withstand it. Just like that time when he went to the Guo family as a bodyguard, the rank 7 fugitive knew how to retreat when faced with him and the 4 sharpshooters, who were at most rank 8 in terms of combat strength and didn't take the risk. However, since they had already boarded the vehicles, things were much simpler. This was equivalent to a martial artist entering an iron coffin. They were confined in a small space and could not move freely. They would not be able to use 50% of their abilities. Furthermore, most of the gunmen were in the first vehicle. For other masters who had not reached the inhuman stage, they might not be able to see such an opportunity. But in his eyes, they were living targets for him, who could release his supernatural ability and whose power had long increased. All right. Yanjika rationally knew that she shouldn't say more, but she couldn't help adding, Call me later, I'll wait for you, no problem. Lu Qing answered with a smile and hung up the phone. He handed his phone and wallet to Zhang Xiaozi and said, You stay a little further away. A broken phone was very troublesome and he couldn't immediately call Ko. And his wallet couldn't be harmed because it was a gift from his wife. Okay. Senior, please be careful. Zhang Xiaozi was delighted. She took the things and quickly retreated. At 4:26, Xi Jinping's motorcade started moving, heading towards the exit of the Linfu building. Most of the bodyguards were in the first vehicle, and he himself was in the second. On his left and right were Wilson and Huang Qingda, and there was another bodyguard in the passenger seat. When the first vehicle turned into the wide and empty road, the second vehicle was about to turn when Lu Cheng, who was calmly standing in front of them, suddenly took a step forward. His aura suddenly flared up, like a whistling northern wind, making the hearts of a few pedestrians tremble. They instinctively fled to the distance, avoiding this place. Lu Cheng stepped on the ground, his body arched and his left and right hands extended forward. With a hook and a shake, he threw out 2 balls of scarlet flames close to the ground. The light flickered and a tyrannical aura was hidden. The 2 flames dragged along scorch marks as they rapidly wandered. They respectively rushed towards the 2 vehicles, both aiming for the gas tank. Squeak! An ear-piercing screech of friction rang out, dragging on for a long time. The vehicles in front and behind respectively turned their steering wheels in an attempt to avoid that terrifying-looking flame. Boom! The burning flame, aimed at the bodyguard's vehicle in front, exploded ahead of time. A wave of fire soared between it and the following vehicles, cutting off their line of sight. Bang! Lu Cheng's muscles bulged and the concrete road under his feet cracked. He quickly threw himself at the black car Si Jianting was in. Relying on his already top-notch level 6 physical fitness, he forcibly pushed his footwork realm to the treading dipper constellation. Of course, it was only equivalent to Qiu Lin's level. It still couldn't compare to Peng Liyun's, let alone Ren Li's. Don't stop. When the burning flame came, the experienced Wuxia, who had dark skin, shouted anxiously in his unfamiliar Chinese language. However, he couldn't stop human instinct. The driver had already braked and turned, creating a screeching sound and clear tire tracks. At this moment, Wilson felt a stinging pain in his side, and his hair stood on end. He sensed danger approaching. He didn't even think about it. He immediately took a deep breath and fiercely swung his elbow, hitting the car door. Bang! The joint between the 2 sides of the car door split open in an instant, and it transformed into a steel shield that flew out. For Wilson, this could create trouble for the enemy, and it could also help him break away from the vehicle at a critical moment. If he was blocked in such a narrow space, it would be very difficult to use his fists and feet. However, Lu Cheng's speed was faster than his reaction, exceeding his imagination. When the joint of the car door had split open, he was already close. His waist sank and swung, his qi and blood converged and released. His right arm suddenly became thick and his palm pressed against the car door. Bang! The car door that was about to fly out was forcibly pressed down. It caved in and twisted out of shape, exposing wires, components and other things. It smashed into Wilson's body, making him feel a burst of pain and dizziness. At this moment, Si Jianting, who had experienced several similar incidents, shrank back and made space. Huang Qingda, who had already pulled out his gun, fired a shot at the deformed car door from the other side. Bang! As soon as he tried to pull the trigger, Lu Cheng sensed it. He straightened his back, hung his feet upside down, and flipped over to the roof of the car in time to avoid the bullet. The other car hadn't yet stopped, and the bodyguard still hadn't gotten out. Their line of sight was blocked by the waves of fire. The sparse passing cars noticed the abnormality and promptly responded. Because of the location Lu Cheng had chosen, they weren't affected too much. Some people even wanted to stop and watch the show. Bang! Lu Cheng's wrist shook again and a red fireball took shape. It smashed into the roof of the car where Huang Qingda was, causing him to sense it. He shot a bird at the sky and with a bang the fireball exploded. Seizing this opportunity, Lu Cheng pulled back and landed on the ground again before the bodyguard in the front passenger seat could react. His left hand promptly threw out a ball of sparkling and translucent white cold light, hitting the head of Wilson, who was dizzy and didn't have the space to dodge. With a dull pop, a layer of ice crystals and thick frost condensed on the outside of Wilson's head, and he temporarily lost consciousness. With a step, Lu Cheng rushed to the back of the car before Huang Qingda and the bodyguards in the front row could open fire. His body arched and his 2 hands clasped together. His muscles swelled with Dan force. Kacha! Lu Cheng's eyebrows furrowed, and the spider web under his feet spread outward. He lifted and lifted his arms, and with the strength to uproot a mountain, he directly flipped the black car to the side. Bang bang! Huang Qingda and the bodyguards in the front row could no longer aim, and 2 bullets shot into the flower bed beside them. While they were panicking and lacked the space to dodge, Lu Cheng flashed like a ghost and arrived in front of Huang Qingda's car door. He avoided the front, and through the broken and deformed gap, he formed a seal with both hands and said in a low voice, "Soldier." The car flipped and Huang Qingda knew it was dangerous. He was preparing to shoot left and right to force the enemy to retreat, and then take Xi Jinping to leave the car and approach the other bodyguards. But his mind suddenly buzzed as if he had seen a childhood nightmare. For a moment he shivered, unable to make any other response. At this time, a white cold light flew in from the gap and smashed into his face. It also condensed a thick layer of frost, making him lose consciousness. Ice burning directly hit the head, and its effect was only slightly worse than severe warning. It also had a stun effect. Bang! Lu Qing used his strength to pull the car door open, but his body didn't go over. Bang! Xi Jinping's face was ferocious as he fired, but the bullet fell into empty space. From the other car the bodyguards rushed out, some carrying guns, some carrying knives. Bang bang bang. In the midst of Xi Jinping's gunshots, Lu Cheng's steps created a strong wind, and he jumped onto Vincent's side of the car door. His hands shook and he threw a cold light of ice burning at the bodyguards in the front row who were trying to shoot in fear, and at the still unaware Xi Jinping. With 2 puffs, the 2 level 9 bodyguards were covered in white frost and turned into ice sculptures for a short time. Lu Qing leaned down and first picked up Vincent. He used it as a weapon and threw it at the bodyguards who were trying to aim at him, making them dodge or turn into bowling balls. Immediately after, he grabbed Xi Jinping again and showed him to the surrounding people. Immediately, the bodyguards stopped their efforts, not daring to make any more movements. Lu Qing pressed down on Xi Jinping, who was still shivering, and said to the bodyguards in a calm tone, "You still dare to stay here? You're armed with weapons and you're fighting a gun battle on the street. The police will be here soon." These words made the bodyguards completely recover their calm. Seeing that their boss had already been caught, and that they were powerless to reverse the situation, they looked at each other and immediately scattered like birds and animals, escaping without a trace. The only ones left were the still not recovered Vincent, Huang Qingda, and the bodyguards in the front row. Recalling the classic bad guys he had seen, Lu Qing extended his hand and helped Xi Jinping, whose spirit was gradually returning to normal, pat the frost off his collar. He smiled slightly and said, "Boss Xi, can we have a good talk with our ice god sect now?" Across the road, Zhang Xiaozi blankly looked at the time on her phone. 4:28. Chapter 432. 4:28 p.m. Looking at the young man in deep navy blue, Xi Jinping's face was still ferocious. His teeth chattered because of the cold, but he didn't answer a single word, as if he wasn't willing to reveal anything. Lu Qing knew that saving a person was like putting out a fire, so he didn't delay. He immediately put on a serious expression and visualized the sharp and cold army character in his mind. He didn't make any hand seals, nor did he speak in the ancient language. He only combined the bloody feeling of the battlefield with his own terrifying aura. Combined with the words in his mouth, he pressured Xi Jinping's spirit. "Where is Li Zhenhua?" Lu Qing shouted in a deep voice. Xi Jinping inexplicably shivered and his body trembled. But after so many years of bloodshed in war-torn areas, he stubbornly refused to admit defeat, and retained the last of his bearing as an ambitious person. Lu Qing narrowed his eyes and spoke again. "Where is Li Zhenhua? Where is Li Zhenhua?" The 2 voices were like thunder in his ears. Xi Jinping's eyes couldn't help but reveal a sense of fear, as if he had returned to his youth when he was imprisoned in that warlord's water prison. "Where is Li Zhenhua?" Lu Cheng's aura flared, and the surroundings seemed to be filled with the smell of blood. I'll talk." Xi Jinping couldn't hold on any longer. His spirit completely collapsed, as if he had seen death, seen the end of the world. A suspicious wetness appeared in his pants, and with snot and tears he wailed, "I'll talk. I'll tell you everything. He's not dead, he's not dead. He's in my 19th floor office's secret room." Following Xi Jinping's stammering confession, Lu Qing more or less figured out what had happened. Last night, after Li Zhenhua had infiltrated, he'd relied on the tips of the spies he'd bribed to find the account books of Xi Jinping's casino, as well as a batch of contraband smuggled from the war-torn areas and other key evidence. But when he'd finished collecting and was preparing to leave, he'd been discovered by the night patrol Wissen, who'd suddenly launched a sneak attack and smoothly captured him. Afterwards, Xi Jinping, who'd suspected that his mortal enemy had set him up, secretly rushed over under Huang Qingda's protection. He'd tortured Li Zhenhua and found out that he was an ice god sect disciple. Xi Jinping's head immediately swelled. He could almost imagine the pressure he'd have to bear at dawn. At this point it was impossible for them to send Li Zhenhua away politely, because the other party already knew a lot of decisive things, and there was a deep hatred between them. They had no choice but to deal with the surveillance video overnight. Then they found a connection to stall for time and began to destroy the evidence in batches. Once he perfected his plan, Xi Jinping didn't leave things to chance. He immediately made arrangements to escape, planning to go to the warlord in the war-torn areas to avoid the limelight. As for Li Jianhua, he wanted to directly silence him, but he didn't dare to make a move. This was because, under the circumstances where all the suspicions pointed towards him, once he killed an Ice God sect disciple or made him disappear for real, it would thoroughly enrage that colossus. Who knows, it might even send an inhuman or even a physical invulnerability expert to kill him. Escaping to a collaborator that wasn't considered strong would only make the other party even more fearless. Therefore, Xi Jinping was prepared to temporarily spare Li Jianhua this time. In any case, what should have escaped had already escaped, what should have been destroyed had already been destroyed, and what should have been dealt with had already been dealt with. Afterwards, he'd look for an opportunity to create an accident. Under the premise that no one would suspect him, he'd erase this enemy that hated him. Finally, he'd change his appearance, return to his hometown, and take back his property. Why do people who do criminal things like to keep accounts? Lu Cheng recalled the TV dramas and novels he'd seen before, and silently complained. Afterwards, he picked up Xi Jinping, who'd collapsed into a pile of mud, and circled around to Huang Qingda's side. He lifted his knee, tapped the ground with the tip of his foot, and kicked Huang Qingda's ear, making this dance stage martial artist completely pass out. With his other hand he pulled Huang Qingda and lifted him up. Lu Qing did the same to Wilson and the bodyguard in the front passenger seat, but he didn't stop the driver from escaping. The reason why he wanted to go through so much trouble was because he felt that he had to do things cleanly. What if Wilson and Huang Qingda were lunatics, and after escaping, wanted to retaliate against him and the people of the Ice God sect? The other bodyguards didn't have this ability, but they did. Since that was the case, he might as well just throw them both to the local police station, and then exert pressure through the sect to sentence them to death. The bodyguard in the front passenger seat didn't have this kind of treatment. After being knocked out by Lu Qing, he was directly thrown into the flower bed. If he could wake up before the police arrived, he could count himself lucky. Lu Qing had just stacked Wilson and Huang Qingda together, making it easier for him to drag them away with one hand, when Zhang Xiaozi ran over in surprise and joy, crossing the road that almost all the cars had already taken a detour. "Senior, Jinjianhua is okay, right?" She gasped for breath and asked with both expectation and apprehension. "It's not too big of a deal." Lu Qing hadn't seen the specific situation with his own eyes, so he could only answer vaguely. Zhang Xiaozi already believed him from the bottom of her heart. Hearing what he said, a brilliant smile appeared on her face. Thank you, senior." Her voice hadn't yet fallen when her cell phone suddenly rang. She picked it up and looked at it, and her expression slightly changed. Police station. She looked at Lu Qing with a somewhat panicked expression, asking for a decision. It was obvious that after receiving the police report, the other party had guessed that the Ice God sect was on the move, and had immediately called Zhang Xiaozi, who was in charge of communication. Lu Qing pondered for 2 seconds, then calmly smiled and said, "Just tell them 5 words, no lives were lost." "Yes, senior." Zhang Xiaozi suddenly had a backbone again, and she hurriedly answered the phone. After she made a few yes sounds, she imitated Lu Cheng's tone just now and calmly said, "Don't worry, no lives were lost." The other end of the phone was silent. Lu Cheng saw that Li Jianhua was no longer in imminent danger, and he was afraid that his little fairy would worry for too long, so he temporarily stopped dragging Wilson and Huang Qingda into the Linfu building. He took back his wallet and cell phone from Zhang Xiaozi, and dialed a number. He held Xi Jinping in one hand, and his foot was pressed against Wilson and Huang Qingda. He calmly stood there in navy blue, and then looked at the cars in the distance that were taking a detour, waiting for his wife to answer. 4:32 p.m. When the call connected, Lu Cheng was afraid that Yan Zhika would misunderstand, so he rushed to open his mouth first. "Hello, Ko." Yan Zhika clearly exhaled, and her tone was filled with joy as she asked, "You gave up?" "No, it's already been solved." Lu Cheng laughed softly. Beside him, Zhang Xiaozi was stunned. The professional and serious senior actually had this side of his chest that resonated with his laughter. "Solved? It's only been a few minutes? Didn't you say that a small matter had become a big trouble?" Yenjika was shocked and at a loss. Her body and mind relaxed, and she was so happy that she was about to explode. Hearing his little fairy's clear and surprised voice, Lu Qing couldn't help but brag. He lightly laughed and said, "I made a mistake in my judgment. For me in the past it was indeed a big trouble, but for me now, yeah, it's just a small matter. You're bragging. Yenjika was angry, amused, and happy at the same time. How could Ching make the mistake of not knowing himself and not knowing the enemy? Yes, I'm bragging. Ko Qian knows me best. Lu Cheng's old face reddened and he calmly admitted, it's mainly because their posture was too good, so the matter is simple. I'll tell you the details later. Yes, yes. Yenjika's voice was light and quick. Lu Cheng thought for a moment and laughed softly. I have a goal. I'll strive to make today's kind of trouble into a small matter within 4 months. I'll remember it for you, Yenjika replied with a smile. After a few seconds of silence, she softly said, Cheng hubby, next time this kind of thing happens, remember to ask clearly before deciding whether or not to go. Okay. Lu Cheng felt pity in his heart and solemnly promised. But things were always developing and changing. It was very difficult to say that asking clearly at the beginning would solve the problem. It was more important to rely on on-the-spot judgment and knowing when to retreat. Hanging up the phone, Lu Cheng carried Si Jianting in one hand and dragged Wilson and Huang Qingda in the other. Under the panicked and scared gazes of the people in the Linfu building, he calmly and steadily boarded the special elevator and arrived at the 19th floor. According to Si Jianting's instructions, he had Zhang Xiaozi open a secret room and saw a young man with many scars curled up unconscious on the floor. Genhua. Zhang Xiaozi threw herself at him. Lu Cheng gave Si Jianting, Wilson, and Huang Qingda each a few more times and threw them beside the guest sofa. Then he entered the secret room and checked Li Zhenhua's injuries. His life isn't in danger. He made a judgment and ordered Zhang Xiaozi, call the police and tell them to call an ambulance when they come. Okay, senior. Zhang Xiaozi breathed a sigh of relief. Her heart settled and she began to dial the number. Lu Cheng reported to his master and let the sect handle the aftermath. 4:37. The sound of police cars and ambulance sirens rang out at the same time. 4:40. Outside Si Jianting's office, the sound of footsteps could be heard. A group of policemen rushed in and saw a young man wearing a navy blue martial arts suit sitting on the sofa with his head down playing with his phone. His bearing was calm and his posture was leisurely. At his feet, Wilson, Huang Qingda, and Si Jianting were lying in a mess, overlapping each other. They were all unconscious. That famous Linbian big shot's body was even slightly trembling, faintly emitting a foul smell. On the other side, Zhang Xiaozi, wearing a short-sleeved shirt, shorts and jogging shoes, stood quietly like a maid. Her eyes occasionally drifted to Li Zhenhua, who was lying on another sofa. Lu Cheng raised his head, smiled at the leading police officer and asked calmly, "What's the matter?" He asked calmly, "Can I go now?" The police officer was silent at first. Looking at the unconscious Li Zhenhua, he nodded heavily. "Yes, that's good." Lu Cheng slowly got up. Under the watchful eyes of the police officers and Zhang Xiaozi, he walked out unhurriedly. The office quieted down. Everyone could faintly hear him making a phone call in the elevator. "Hello, Mom, I might be an hour late for dinner." An hour late for dinner? The police officers and Zhang Xiaozi looked at each other. Leaving the Linfu building, Lu Cheng waved his hand to stop a taxi and sat in the back. "Go to the Four Joy store," he calmly ordered. His phone's display switched from the booking app to the search page for Linbian specialties. The driver started the car and asked, Hey, was there a gunfight at Linfu's side just now? I heard it was very intense." Lu Cheng smiled and said, "I didn't watch so I'm not too sure." "Well, there will be news later." The driver didn't say anything more. 4:52 p.m. In the Four Joys store, Lu Cheng carefully selected 2 boxes of osmanthus cake and 2 cans of matsutake sauce. Then he went next door and bought some mangosteen and other special fruits. 5:19 p.m. He arrived at the high-speed railway station and received a call from Geezer Shi. "You handled it well today." Comrade Shi Jiangwo praised and then said, "Remember, nothing can go exactly as expected. Today I am mainly training your ability to deal with accidents and changes. If you improve in this aspect, you won't be flustered when you encounter an accident in the future and won't be in danger." "You're right." Lu Cheng suddenly realized that he had misunderstood his master and thought that he was unreliable. When he hung up the phone, he suddenly had doubts and muttered, what he said just now couldn't be an excuse made up by his master to cover up his unreliability, right? This is his style. 5:35 p.m. The high-speed railway started to move. Lu Cheng leaned back comfortably and played with his phone. 7:25 p.m. Li Jianhua woke up in the Linbian hospital. After seeing Zhang Xiaozi beside him, he anxiously asked, "Did you catch Si Jianting?" "Yes, your sect sent a young senior to deal with him." Zhang Xiaozi answered truthfully. Li Jianhua immediately relaxed, his expression was absent-minded. After a few seconds he regained his composure and muttered, "Young senior twice. Where's the senior?" he asked. "He left in the afternoon," Zhang Xiaozi said in detail. "Well, when did the senior come?" Li Jianhua asked casually. Zhang Xiaozi's tone suddenly became very strange. "Also in the afternoon, 7:29 p.m. Backwater Lake. At the entrance of the villa community. Yanjika, wearing a short sleeves and a long skirt, trotted out. She tilted her head slightly and looked at Lu Cheng. "You're still not going back to eat? Why did you come to find me first?" Lu Cheng lifted the osmanthus cake, matsutake sauce, and southern fruits in his hand and laughed softly. "I brought you some Linbian specialties. That you're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."